Hello.
Hello. We're going live. We're live.
Okay. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
This is how it is. 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 Today on Pop Culture Minefield. This is how it is. Today. This is how it is. Today on Pop Culture Minefield. This is how it is. This is how it is. Today on Pop Culture Minefield. Today on Pop Culture Minefield.
Welcome, everybody. It's another Saturday, and we are here to talk about some wonderful stuff, specifically Dracula, which was shot at the end of 29 and at the end of 1930 and released that Valentine's Day, which is like one of the weirdest decisions in cinematic history. Putting Dracula, a horror film, out on Valentine's Day and promoting it as the strangest story of passion ever told. And our good friend Kamran Pasha is here to talk about this film. And of course, Anima Confusa, who is so sick today. She's like, I don't know. I'm sleeping with dogs. I feel so bad.
Fuck you.
Is here.
I can't believe I'm marrying this asshole.
Yeah, can you believe she's marrying me?
Well, congrats. I didn't know you guys were getting married. Happy stuff. Good for you.
Yes. We are officially engaged, as Captain Picard would say.
I'm working on the
And of course, we have Shinatsky here, and Stephen, also aka Deleted Scenes, is here. And
Great.
we are streaming live on his channel as well. And of course, to produce the show, we have Martin Acosta Santana here, who gave up his life of crime to produce this show.
Dude, that was between
As
you
a
and
member
me.
as a member of one of the cartels.
He's the real hero here, let's be honest.
I didn't know they had nerd cartels down there in Mexico.
I like
Wait
your
a minute.
avatar, Stephen. Always dressed for the occasion.
What's
Gary?
Benzinger says, I thought I'd show up to see you guys talk about some classic Universal Monster movies. And Cameron, good. If you're watching this, please spread your knowledge, good sir. So there you go, Cameron. The first message to you.
I'm happy to share the group knowledge with everyone. There's a lot of smart people here, and we're going to have some interesting things to say about this movie.
Right.
And this was a pre-code supernatural film. And long before the Catholics and the Christians got a hold of Hollywood and started making codes.
No, I don't think that's true. The Hays Code is 1922. It was introduced during the silent films. So this is actually very code. In fact, that I wanted to talk about.
Really?
Yeah. Now, Hays Code was introduced to silent film in 1922 and was up to 45. So, yeah, no, this was very much Hays Code, and as a result, it was censored even from the original planned story. So we'll talk about that.
That is interesting because I was unaware of that. Because I know that later in the 40s that they went after Hollywood again. Connie Cleary is here. Who all is here right now? We got Connie Cleary, Charlotte Night Star the Werewolf, Vin Zinger, and let's see, and that's it in the chat right now.
No, we have Slasher Fred just.
I'm sorry?
Oh, Slasher Fred just popped in. Good to see you, Slasher Fred. A true horror fan.
Yeah.
Slasher. And this was really the beginning for, even though technically they had already done, Universal did the Phantom of the Opera and did the Hunchback, right? The silent version. They didn't count. And I've heard rumblings that there was a Dracula before this one that was silent, and I don't know anything about it. I've never found anything on it.
Well, there was Nosferatu, which is
I know that Nosferatu was made, but someone said that there was a lost Dracula film, and I'm like, nothing I'm aware of. I know there was a silent Frankenstein film made by Edison that was really terrible, but fun, but terrible. The makeup was just awful. The guy's cross-eyed. I'm like, what is going on here with that? But this film kind of really launched the Universal monsters, and I don't feel like Universal really knew what they had going until after Frankenstein. And then they're like, oh, we've got something here. And they just started producing more and more horror films. And of course, they produced Bride of Frankenstein almost 7 years after this, Frankenstein 1931. And you could see the difference with Boris, because it's hard to believe how just 7 years made his face change. And so you can actually see it changing shape. It's still one of my favorite films. It's a bookend film. You cannot have Frankenstein 31 without The Bride of Frankenstein 1938. It's just period. That's it.
And by the way, I want to correct myself. Because I just checked. So the Hays Code was actually enacted before this film in 1930. It wasn't in 22. It was in response to the wild wackiness of the silent films, which were, some of them were really it's essentially really hot and heavy near pornography stuff because they didn't have any rules, right? But it was more at that time. By the time Dracula was released in 31, it was still a guideline. It's sort of like parlay. It was like is it the code of the parents or is it a rule? By 34, it's strictly enforced. But they did censor this movie for fear of how the audience would react.
Interesting. So, and it is an unusual film, and I don't think Universal knew how to promote it, and they just chose. And I still don't know the full story behind that of what was the decision making to make a Valentine's Day film. And it's just fascinating that they did that because it went over like gangbusters. It was a hit.
Yeah, because
vampires are very erotic creatures, and there's a love story here, so it's not that.
And you're right. If you read the original novel, I mean, this is based on the original novel. It is a sexy book. It is all repressed Victorian era, double entendres about sex, right? And this is yeah. I mean, vampires have always been sexy, and we'll talk about Bela Lugosi's performance here, but I think they smartly put it out there because I think women understood the allure of vampires, right? It was women that was primarily being told, you can't be sexual, and these vampire movies allowed them to be, right?
Right.
So I think guys, as usual, are in denial about female sexuality, where we don't understand it, and we don't get it, and so we don't.
That had nothing to do with that.
Well, vampires live forever. They have time to learn. And can we please exclude sparkling vampires from the sexy thing because they're not?
Yeah, sparkly is not. Yeah, I agree.
I look at Twilight as more of a fae movie. If you look at the way they act and everything else. And like the kind of power they have over people. Sure. Well, it's more of a fae movie, but for some reason Stephanie Meyer went vampires.
They did, and it went away, thank God. But getting back to classic vampire, because Dracula himself and his portrayal is sexy in the fact that he had the exotic accent, which of course they got an actor with an exotic accent. But I don't think Dracula in this version of 31 is really wrought with sexuality, other than the biting of women and the way that he would come in with the way Bela did that shit with his hands was so cool. His pinky would bend almost backwards when he would pose his hand. He had crazy hands, and he had discovered that while doing the stage production in New York. Actually, he did it across the country, playing Dracula before playing him in film. So he's perfect for the part. But I do know that, yeah, somebody brought it up that Lon Chaney, even though he's technically not really a senior, it's just Lon Chaney. Lon Chaney was one of the original actors that wanted to play the part, but of course he got the big C and passed by the time they were going into production. And somebody had heard him and said, "Man, you better get that checked," because he had a really bad cough when he was working on his last film. And it's sad, he went very quickly. But we got Bela Lugosi out of the deal, and I think that he was a perfect person to portray Dracula in the first talkie. And by the way, again, I want to point out, talkies were still kind of in their infancy at this point.
Yeah, it's only about 2 or 3 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's kind of cool that, the Universal Monsters got their official start with talkies, even though I do think that Phantom of the Opera in particular is a proper Universal film and should always be considered part of the Universal Monsters.
And it's the first MCU. Monster Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
Shut up, Shinatsky.
He always has his unique comments. I know him well. But I want to go back to this whole thing of the sexuality of this movie, right? And the original script that they had apparently had Dracula kissing Mina, right? Actually on the lips, and they decided to cut that out. In fact, if the film itself is actually very. They don't show him biting people. They don't show the bite marks. They discuss them. This is, I worked on a TV show called Rain on CW, which is about Mary Queen of Scots, right? And the day I arrived there, we were told, okay, so we're on the CW, and it's a period piece, historical epic. We don't have any money. So they said, first thing you have to do is understand this show is about tell, don't show. Like in Hollywood, it's always, show, don't tell. It's like, we don't have any money, so tell, don't show. So it'd be like Mary would walk in and say, wow, it was a really crazy battle where 10 million people were killed, right? Wow, it was pretty intense. We wouldn't see it because they didn't have any money to film it, right? And so that's what this film is. It's all tell, don't show. It's literally like, you're told about the marks. They're even described distinctly what the vampire marks are. When they actually talk about her, Mina, being infected with the vampire's curse, right? And that she's going to be turning into a vampire. They describe the process. She says it. He cut open his vein in his arm and made me suck his blood. It's all tell, don't show, because they couldn't show that stuff because they were afraid at the burgeoning code that was coming and where we were post 1920s rah party time. Where we were, people were kind of afraid. In the industry was afraid that this movie would get blackballed as an erotic movie that was unacceptable. So we got a lot of the lore said aloud. We didn't see it.
Yeah, and it's so strange that a lot of the lore didn't come about until years later because we had another guest on a couple of weeks back and we were talking about. Well, Andre and I talked about it too. Because of a little film that was called The Fearless Vampire Killers. And or they called it The Dance of the Vampires first, and then it became Fearless Vampire Killers, which we are going to be doing sometime this year. I don't know when, but it is just one of my favorite vampire films. And that is where a lot of the vampire lore that we know today came from, because so little is given in these early films. Nosferatu, Dracula, it's kind of crazy. And some of the transformation stuff, because you see it in Dracula with his brides. Right. Of course, the changing of Mina in Dracula too. And I think that one of the nice things that was a nod to what Dracula was kind of about was done later in Bram Stoker's Dracula, where you actually have a line in there from Van Helsing in the 1992 film, where says that civilization and civilization grew together. And it's really kind of what Dracula is kind of about, is the spreading of disease. And it kind of refers to the plague, which is more heavily influenced in Nosferatu than Dracula. In this film, they don't really bring that up. We don't see the rats on the ship, I don't think, in this version, as I recall, right?
I mean, I saw it again last night. I didn't see it.
There's this one giant rodent coming out of the coffin.
Oh, yeah, it's in the opening scene with the coffins, and you see it's a possum. It is not a rat. It's like,
yeah, and they have like weird armadillos show up. Like, I mean, they've got like a strange, like whatever was in the Universal like animal zoo they just put out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do any of you know the musical adaptation of The Fearless Vampire Killers? Because that is a huge hit in German.
In Europe,
countries.
yeah.
In German-speaking countries, because it's originally German. Tanz der Vampire, Dance of the Vampires. It's a huge hit.
Yeah, it's based on that script too, because Jim Stein had all these songs he wrote, which he wanted to use, the Meatloaf guy.
But they used Total Eclipse of the Heart for the main duet between the vampire and Sarah. Karl and Sarah. I've sung that so many times with my ex.
It's not just a misquote. It's absolutely, it was never said. It was just, you're right. It was never said in the film. But that was something, that was brought about as a joke by a comedian. And then it became part of the lexicon. But no, Dracula never said that. You're all right, Slasher Fred. Yeah, the beetle. That's a miniature coffin at the opening of the film. And you see a beetle crawl out.
I have to rewind that scene. What? Is that thing coming out of a coffin?
And all I know, Cameron, is when I watched that scene and explain what just happened, I went back to it too to show her. And all I hear is, ew. Animal hates bugs.
The real reaction you got was with the spider. When he walks through the spider web, and next scene you see that spider crawling, and I'm like, fuck.
I can't believe how many people don't even catch that. That he walks through the webs without damaging it.
Well, I mean, and I did catch it, and I thought it was actually very well done. It was understated, because you have the actor react, right, to the fact that the web is still there and that he's got to cut through it, right? And I thought it was very well done. I actually have to say, that the actor who plays Renfield, like, kind of steals this movie, right? I think the two strongest actors are Bela Lugosi. Yeah, and the other gentleman, right? And so who was Renfield? It was Dwight Frye, right? Thank you. He just hammed it up. He loved playing crazy insect eater. I mean, he took it to 120, and he was great.
Yeah, he nails.
Yeah, he would come back again later in Frankenstein playing Fritz, the Hunchback.
Fritz, yeah. Now the thing is, that character was so well written that everyone that was offered the part of Harker, they always said, "No, I want to play the crazy one."
Yeah.
And I will put it out that I'm really kind of happy that despite so many of the changes within the story, that this was based on the stage play, which Lugosi, like I said, had been doing across the country. But they kept Wilhelmina in there. They kept John in there. They changed a couple other characters, but they kept Lucy in there too. Because Lucy is her friend that ends up getting taken first, just like in the book and in the. Well, I consider the second best Dracula is the 1992 film.
What do you consider the
BBC,
first? What's your first?
1997 Dracula with what's his name? The
Jack
French
Palance?
actor. No, the 1977 BBC film. It's the most accurate adaptation of Dracula to this point. And then 1992 is the second most accurate. But it's my favorite Dracula other than this one.
I've never seen the 77. I'm looking this up right now. The 77 film, British adaptation. Who started it? So it was Louis
Jourdan.
Louis
Jourdan.
No. So I gotta check this out because I haven't seen this. What's interesting, which most people don't know, and maybe on this channel, maybe on my friend Latino Slant channel, I'll do there was simultaneously filmed a Spanish language version. It was filmed simultaneously.
It's a strange Spanish version too, because what they did is Bela Lugosi's there, but it's a bunch of Spanish actors in the same set.
So Bela Lugosi
is not there
with all these Spanish actors.
No, it wasn't.
No. It was a Spanish Dracula. It was Spanish.
Yes. So he's just another character.
Yeah, I don't think he was there. They would
No, Bela
they do.
didn't
They would
do
shoot
nothing
during the day
Mhm.
on the set, and then at night, the Espanol crowd would come in, mostly Mexican, and they would shoot their version. And it was on the same set, produced by same producer, Lamel. But here's the funny part: every single person who has seen that version of the film says it's actually better
The
than
Spanish
the
version.
English speaking one. Yeah. And I was curious, is that what Polly said to you? Did you guys
No,
talk about that?
I was just mentioning I haven't done it with Paulie because I think I'd love to do it with Paulie because it would be a great chance. There is a video actually. I found a YouTube video. Maybe I'll just throw it in the chat. The link. There's a YouTube video of a film commentator putting the two movies up scene by scene and comparing them, right? And how they were shot slightly differently and the performances and all that. So I mean I just think that the actually I mean I know they kind of did this a little bit in those days of how just to save money because they wanted to get international distribution. There's in the Islamic world there's a very famous incident of that where the one only movie ever made about the Prophet Muhammad with The Message with Anthony Quinn playing the Prophet's uncle was filmed. Yeah, and it's a good movie. It's filmed simultaneously. It's filmed simultaneously in English and Arabic with different actors. It was literally like, he would go in and they would film the entire battle sequence of the Battle of Badr and let's do it again with the Arabic actors, right? And so yeah, so it was that's another case.
Well, I love stuff like that because you see that also when Werner Herzog did his version of Dracula, which he called Nosferatu, because it looks like Nosferatu, but he actually kept the names from Dracula in it.
Yeah,
his version has Harker, and he's not I just forgot his name, Orlok. It's Dracula.
Is that
Yeah,
the
it's
Nosferatu
Carlos
which you watched?
Baladar for the Spanish Dracula. My mistake.
And in fact, this is another thing Andre talked about, and he and I did speak about it too, is that again, the film the Dance of the Vampires, also known as the Fearless Vampire Killers, inspired the lore that you see in his version of Nosferatu. He followed how it worked. Becoming a vampire was based on what he learned from watching that film, because it was the only film he ever watched. He didn't watch the classics. He didn't watch the Universal films. And Werner's, I'm not saying he considered himself above it. It's just it was part of his lexicon growing up and stuff. So Stephen Ransom's in the room. What's up, buddy? Oh, and Courtney is here. Courtney, I love Courtney because she has
that's
supposed to be Michael Myers, but it looks like mummified James Hong as Michael Myers.
What I want to do is I found them. I actually did a tour in Romania a few years ago. I did a Dracula tour. I went to Romania. I hired a private tour guide who drove me all over the country, just me personally, right? And I wanted to follow the steps of Vlad Tepes, the great, the great Romanian warrior, who was the inspiration for Dracula. In fact, was Dracula that was his surname or his title. And so we went there. So I actually have photos. I found them in my record. I have photos of some of the original sites, right, that I went to of Vlad Tepes, which I'm going to look up. I'm going to send them to you. You want to post them and we can talk about, that maybe compared to some of the stuff that was done in the movie about Castle Dracula.
Well, one of the interesting things is Bram Stoker was very clever in how he went about writing this book, because he did his due diligence. He was a good researcher, and he looked up the destruction of that ship and changed the name of it, because the original ship was called the Dimitri, the Dimitri, and then he changed it to the ship. I forget the name of it in the film.
The Demeter. Demeter.
The Demeter. Yeah, the Demeter. And he looked up all this stuff, and he absolutely looked up Vlad Tepes. And as I've explained to people, the name is Dracul, but Dracula means son of the dragon, or demon, as they've changed it to. They changed it to demon, but it also means dragon, and so it's both. And but the name Dracula means son of the dragon. And he did his due diligence on that research. And I love the original book because it's written through diary and posted letter. Like, it's incredible the way they did it.
Well, yeah. And the original book is a work of genius for doing that. I mean, aside from the fact it's a very good book, Stoker did something completely insane by doing it in this format. It really was an unusual format.
Yeah, I wholly agree. And I wanted to show a picture too, because this one's really kind of cool. I'm going to share it here really quickly. My daughter got to go there as well. She got to see one of the castles for Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
She got to see the one that belonged to the father. She didn't get to go to the other Dracula's castle. But she loved this when she got to go to Romania. Let me bring that up real quick. Present, share screen. So I don't know if I've ever shared this on the show, ever. This is my baby girl in Romania. As soon as it loads. Can you add that, Martin?
Yeah, and when here we go. Let's see this. Oh wow, here he goes.
Isn't that beautiful?
Is
up
the
on the little road?
Okay, and is the Spire House the one we're talking about?
No, that's a church, but that's not at the castle. I have more pictures, and I just didn't want to waste our time digging them up. But that's one of them I found, and so I thought I'd share that one right now. Yeah, she's. What's that?
That's from the castle view. What are we looking at?
I do believe she's up near the castle. She's up on the road that goes to the castle.
Okay, all right, that's cool. Yeah, but you have a very elfin, magical daughter.
She is. She's very elf-like. She's this little tiny thing. The only thing tinier than her is my fiance.
Are you gonna take that from him?
That was literally Zoe's first reaction when she came into the house to meet me when I was over there in October.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm sitting next to Gary, and she just squeaks, "Oh my God, you're even tinier than I imagined." That was so sweet.
So when you have a man, Gary, to take a look at, I sent on Facebook, I DM'd you a few pictures from my Romania trip. So yeah.
Oh, I'll grab those.
You can actually compare them to some of the backdrops here that we're looking at. Because I actually thought the art design of this movie was great. It's all painted matte paintings, but I thought it was really effective.
Yeah, it was all shot in California, the entire film, and in order to save money. And I thought they did a fantastic job as well. I love the matte paintings, to be honest with you. I love the way everything was shot.
I mean, felt like you were in a fairy tale. You felt like you were in a dark fairy tale, and yeah, and it was, just the production design was very creepy and very effective.
By the way, there she is again in Romania, standing on a rock. I'm like, oh my God. It's such a gorgeous area. I've never wanted to go there myself. I've been all over Europe, but I was never interested in going to Romania or anywhere in Slovakia. Just none of it. I'm Paris. I love Paris. I love Spain. I love Italy. And I love England.
You
And
realize
I love
Romania and Slovakia are very different places, right?
Yes, they're very different. Well, I mean, I'll give you an example. I've been to both Romania and Bulgaria, which are next door neighbors, right? They share a border, and they're completely different physical environments, different cultures. I mean, Romania, you can see why it would inspire horror stories. I mean, it is misty mountains and valleys. It's a creepy, beautifully creepy place.
Tasty,
and Bulgaria is
very different. Yeah.
Bulgaria is just a lovely country.
Well, not only that, but you know what Walpurgis Night is, right?
Yeah.
Well, they reference it in the movie, right? That this night, but I don't know much about the history. What do you know about Ashnowski?
Okay, Walpurgis Night. Ironically, not referring to the actual day, but basically, there's a big celebration for Saint Walpurgis, and so there's a lot of praying and everything else. Thus, the biggest collection of unholy powers is the day before, because all those spirits, everything else, have come into the world and they haven't been prayed away yet. So it's not referring to the actual night; it's the night before. It's like 13 o'clock. It's everything the point where like before daybreak. It's the darkest of the dark before the light comes.
Okay.
Here we go, Cameron. I've got your photos.
You got some photos here. So I'll show you. So this is actually, and forgive me for my Romanian ex-girlfriend for mispronouncing all this stuff, but I believe this is Castle Shigashawara, which was it's actually shown in the this was actually Dracula's castle. The one that is held up, I think Bronze Castle, that's held up as Dracula's castle. Dracula never lived there. It was another Romanian royal figure that lived there. But because it looks like because that Bronze Castle looks like the mythical castles in this 1931 film, the Romanian Tourist Board very wisely presents that as Castle Dracula. This is actually the ruins of Castle Dracula, which was up in the mountains, and it's literally there's stairs. It's like 10,000 stairs. It takes like an hour to get up there, but you climb a mountain to get there. And this was Vlad Dracula's stronghold that he held against the Turks, and they besieged him here. And so the opening scene of Bram Stoker's Dracula, the Coppola movie, has that famous story, which is actually based on Romanian legend, which is that in this castle they were besieged, and that the Turks sent a message, the Ottomans sent a message to Dracula's wife that trying to get her to surrender, that he had been killed, right? And so he hadn't been killed, but that was they were doing psyops. They were doing a psyop on her, right? That he's been killed, surrender the castle to us, right? And when she heard that, the legend is, and I think it's historical, but the legend is that she then jumped from the castle turrets and died in the there's a river underneath the mountain, right? And that's still called the Red River, the Ladies River, because she died there and whatever. And so this is right there at the sort of turret peak area. It's a creepy ass place. There were chambers that are still there where Vlad would he would impale his victims and just have coffee there or tea there. He would sit there and the chambers are still the torture chambers are still preserved, right? But it is one creepy ass thing. It's at the top of a mountain, there were secret passageways. So when Dracula's wife killed herself, he escaped through a secret passageway, but then he vowed eternal revenge against the Turks, and that's part of the legend. But there's probably some historical truth to it. But yeah, so this yellow house, this is where Vlad Dracula was born. It is the original house where he was born. It is still standing. It is used as a restaurant, right? The room where he was actually born, second floor window above where I'm standing, is one of the main dining halls. And when you go in there, archaeologists, or when they were restoring, and it wasn't archaeologists, but when they were restoring some of the paint or whatever, they uncovered that there are murals that had been hidden for centuries beneath.
Oh my God, really?
And you can see the murals because they took the paint down. These were murals that they were able to date both by the murals were depicting. The murals documented a battle and historical events. These were murals that were drawn or at least commissioned by Dracula's father, Dracula. And so he would have been born in that room when those murals were there, right? And so it's really it's a really amazing thing to be there and having steak or whatever in this room where Vlad Dracula was born, right? So that's there, and so that's an amazing place to go. If you got some other pictures, I got like 2 or 3 more. Yeah, what else we got here? So this is actually the alleged tomb, one of the alleged tombs, but of Vlad Dracula that's on an island just outside of the capital.
His brother's buried with him, allegedly too, right?
Well, that's the thing. Is the legends are all because his death remains unclear. There are multiple accounts of his death. We do know the Ottomans took his head back to Constantinople and kept it on the Topkapi Palace as symbol of having defeated their biggest enemy. That he was just an undefeatable warrior for them, and he had been raised amongst the Ottomans, he had been raised in the palace, and it turned against them, right? And so he
of this hatred for them too.
Well, yeah, he and his brother Radu were prisoners, were sort of hostages that were given over by his father. His father basically made a deal with the Turks. He basically accepted Turkish sovereignty for a little bit of independence, and to ensure that, he gave over his sons as essentially hostages, and they were raised as princes. With Mehmed, who would be the one that would conquer Constantinople. They were raised as like brothers to that guy. Radu essentially went over to the other side. Radu became pro-Ottoman, complete ally to Mehmed. And then his older brother, Vlad, went the other way. Vlad said, I'm going to avenge the fact that we had been taken away from our family and raised in this foreign thing, and our country has been subjugated to these people. And so he went to war against Mehmed, who, again, they were raised as brothers. There was sort of a mediocre origin of Dracula movie that was done a few years ago about Mehmed and and Vlad is
Back in the 2000s, I remember.
yeah, he's okay. He's okay, whatever. But whatever. But so this place, this is a church that is on an island just outside the the capital, and the local legend is that when Dracula was killed, this was a church that we know Dracula financed. That it's an Orthodox church that he financed personally. We know that he has a connection to it. He supported these particular priests and monks, and that the legend is he was buried in this grave that was right over beneath the altar. And so that's one legend. There's several other legends where he was buried. But so archaeologists actually were allowed in the 70s to open the grave. They were allowed to see if Dracula is actually there. The legend is true. What's interesting is they found no body in there, but it was filled with animal bones. It was just a strange sight, a strange thing that they found in there, right? And so yeah, but that is.
Didn't they do a documentary on it? Because I seem to remember that.
I'm sure. Wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, that it was certainly a major event, and there's just so much creepiness around this. Because one of the things that I learned, which will bring us back to the movie as well, one of the things that I learned is when I was there, because I talked to scholars as well, and they said the idea of Vlad Dracula being an undead being, a strigoi, which is the Romanian word for a vampire,
Right.
was present in his lifetime. It was the legend in his lifetime. So Bram Stoker didn't make it up. Bram Stoker heard this legend. And we know that because we have letters from German merchants who were trading in Romania, or I guess Romania didn't exist, but Transylvania at the time, right? And they wrote back that the Transylvania is ruled by this fearsome warrior, Dracula, who is believed, they were ruled by his infamous impalings and all this stuff, right? But they said that he's known to torture people or impale them. But the legend of the people of Transylvania at the time of his life was that he was drinking their blood, that he was using the blood in a cult ceremony, sort of like his distant cousin Elizabeth Bathory would, right? And that he had been that he was doing that to get supernatural power against the Turks, and that he had become a non-human being, that he had become a strigoi in his lifetime because of that. And so the creepy thing that'll bring us back to both the book and the movie. So the movie has, because it's black and white, you can't see it, but the movie has several times talking about Dracula having red eyes, right? Which is how he's described in the novel, right? That he has glowing red eyes, or at least when he reveals his vampire form. And they sort of do that by doing very effective lighting on Bela Lugosi's face, and he does a really effective, creepy, unblinking stare, which is really, it's really unsettling, right? He did a really good job with it. What's interesting is Stoker said that the idea for Dracula, which it came to him, is he had a nightmare where it wasn't, maybe it was a nightmare, it wasn't, but he was in his bed in the nightmare, and he saw a man standing at the foot of his bed with glowing red eyes and filled with hatred, and and he vanished, and he couldn't get the guy's face out of his mind. And so he started looking at historical images, and then he found that famous painting of Vlad Dracula with the big mustache, right? And he said that's the guy that appeared at the foot of my bed. So okay, is that a nightmare that inspired Dracula, or
Sounds like it.
Or what if Vlad Dracula did become a supernatural being? What if he did appear in some form to Bram Stoker to keep his memory alive in the form of a tulpa, an imaginal being? Because Dracula had been forgotten by history. Bram Stoker brought him back to life. What if this is an actual occult being that exists in some other dimension? I mean, it's an interesting idea, right?
We have one on the next picture, because it looks like you doubled up on one.
Yeah, I doubled up. So this is one. Yeah. So this is yeah. So
that's Vlad there. That's Vlad Tepes. Yeah.
Yeah, the Vlad Tepes. That's actually in his house. So he had a house in the capital that's still standing, right? It's funny because right next to it, the hilarious thing about how history works. When I went there, first of all, it's downtown in the middle of the city, but it's right next to this Turkish doner kebab place.
Get the hell out of here.
Which is I laughed. I said, well, I guess you didn't beat them, Vlad. I guess they're right there now. But so this was Bucharest, right? And so this is like downtown Bucharest, and so the photo is taken at this place. So what's interesting about it is, so this is the last standing. This was his personal residence in Bucharest. This was where he ruled from in the city. It's still standing, and it's a very creepy place. It looks sort of like a mini Castle Dracula. It's like in this. It's like, you know what it looks like? It looks like Carfax Abbey. It looks like that, right? The Carfax Abbey that's in the Dracula movie and described in books. And there's a creepy graveyard from the 14th, 15th century out in front, and then where this statue or this bust of Vlad Dracula is in the courtyard, and this is where he would impale people for lunch. He would impale his enemies there, and then he would force the local residents, the nobles or whatever, to come and have lunch with him while they're like relatives who were being tortured.
Slowly sliding down the pole.
Yeah, exactly. And you couldn't comment on it because if you reacted, showed disgust, fear, horror, you'd be on the pole, right? So that was his way of keeping the Romanian nobles in control. But he did that out there in this courtyard. This was the famous impaling courtyard where everyone in the city could see him torturing anybody who displeased him. Right? I mean, this guy was scary to the Turks, but he killed like 100,000 of his own people, right? So I mean, he's a really scary guy. The last thing I want to say, we go back to the movie. So a strange incident happened just before I took this photo. So I'm wandering around Bucharest with my guidebook or whatever, trying to find this place, right? Because like I said, it's like downtown middle. It's this old Carfax Abbey It's like Carfax Abbey in London. It's like this old little, this creepy Gothic place in the middle of like skyscrapers and old buildings and banks and like Turkish kebab places. I find it, but as I'm approaching it, across the street, I suddenly hear shouting and yelling, and I don't know what's going on. I turn and I see a guy comes running out of like, I don't know what it was, a restaurant. I don't know what it was. He came running out of some store holding like a butcher knife and shouting and screaming, right? And initially people are like, oh, this must be like an act or like a performance for the Dracula house, right? They've like paid actor. And I'm like, and then I suddenly see the cops show up and they grab this guy. And I'm like, what just happened here, right? This like bloodthirsty dude with a meat cleaver screaming in Romanian, right? Right in front of this scary old building, right? And then he's like tackled by the police. And I'm like, okay. So there's a weird, creepy vibe still around all this stuff. But you can see how much of, just looking at these old structures, how well the production design, because I don't think these guys went to Romania. They just went with their imagination. But they created something that really captures this vibe.
I do have a question then. Is it true of the story about Vlad and the Golden Cup? Like, what I heard is basically that in the center of town, there was a well and there's a golden cup you could use. And his emphasis with it is that my people are good because they know if anything happens to this, the consequences will be drastic. Like, it was his way of emphasizing how much control he had over his own people.
I mean, I haven't heard that legend, but I mean, it's certainly in his character. I mean, this guy ruled by absolute terror. He ruled by absolute terror, and his philosophy worked. If your goal was to get the Ottomans out of Romania, it worked. I mean, they were scared crapless of this guy because he created the image of being an occult monster in his lifetime, and they were scared. I mean, the Ottoman soldiers are stepping into Wallachia, which was his kingdom, and then they're just greeted by miles of impaled Romanian peasants, his own people, who have been impaled as a warning to the Ottomans. And they're like, this guy's the devil. Like this, so he did that to his own people as a shield again, and it worked. Romania, except for southern Romania, which I went to, where there's a stunningly beautiful mosque still, southern Romania became part of the Ottoman Empire, but not. That's outside the borders of Wallachia. Wallachia didn't.
Just want to throw this in there because the minute you said devil, it makes me think of my godfather, Father Gerald Weems, who would say devil.
Devil?
That he would call us idiots. You're idiots. I keep that photo around to keep me doing the right thing all the time.
It's not very smart of him.
Oh, you can look at his face, and half his face loves you, and the other half wants to murder you.
By the way, Nishinovsky, I've heard that story that you talked about. It's just for shorthand. It's referred to as 2 Vlads, 1 cup.
Oh my God!
Oh, God!
Oh, hello,
Chris.
hello.
Now this is where you were at, Kamran. This
This is
another shot.
Sigurdswada. That's what. Because that's the top of the mountain. Yeah.
Now this is the one you were referring to, which
Grand
is
Castle, right? Which
called
is
Dracula's Castle, but it's
No
actually
connection.
it's the Braun Castle.
Yeah.
And it's referred to as Dracula's Castle. And it is gorgeous. They
Yeah.
used it in the Christopher Lee movie. And I think it was I'm not sure if that's the one they used in the 1977 Nosferatu or 79 Nosferatu or not. But thanks for sharing those pictures, Cameron. It's deeply appreciated, my friend.
Yeah, I'm happy to go back to. What I want to go back to Romania is I want to go to that haunted forest in the north.
Mhm.
I didn't get a chance that because I was all in the south in the Ottoman bordering areas for Vlad. But I want to do a tour of that really scary haunted forest. So yeah. So actually, you know what? I suddenly remembered I got all the names wrong. So any Romanian watching this, the castle is called Poneri, I think, and the birthplace, the yellow building, is Sigășoara, I think. Forgive me for all our Romanian viewers that I got.
By the way, my daughter's biggest complaint
Mhm.
the whole time she was there,
Mhm.
she goes, "Dad, I don't want to sound racist, but I couldn't stand the gypsies. They were so awful."
Well, we'll just keep moving on. Let's just keep.
We'll keep moving on. By the way, for those of you who didn't know, Dracula was actually an atheist. He was not afraid of religious relics. He just didn't want you pushing your religious beliefs on him. So there we are. All right.
Well,
Let's get back to this
Fright Night
slideshow.
handled it. Is it in the symbol? Fright Night handled it. It isn't the symbol, right? It's your belief in
It's
the
the
symbol.
faith.
It's faith. I could
You
hold
gotta
up
have
Quran,
faith.
You could hold up a Star of David or a Buddhist thing and mandala. It's your faith that's the shield.
Because
Well,
that's the line. He says you gotta have faith.
That's that actually came from Stephen King in the novel. I don't know if it was in the movie, but it was
Salem's
in the novel
Lot?
for Salem's Lot,
Or the-
where they were backing him off with a cross, and he kind of talks them down, and is able and through getting them to lose their confidence. But in the original novel, the scene where Jonathan Harker is trying to shave, and he's holding up the mirror that can show the whole room, and he doesn't see Dracula in that mirror. And then when he cuts himself, Dracula does advance on the blood, and it's his rosary that was given to him by the woman at the inn that did back Dracula off. And Jonathan Harker is not a believer. A matter of fact, in the novel Dracula, the characters are very much Victorian Enlightenment.
Victorian Enlightenment, where they began to focus on science and less on faith.
And it was Dr. Van Helsing who, through being open-minded, brought Christian faith back in and kind of blended it with Enlightenment to create, as you went last time we talked about Dracula, God's madmen. So
it's a great line. It's in the book, said at a different time, but it's in the book. And I love that Coppola put that back into the movie. It found a perfect place for it. We have all become God's madmen.
And Coppola did a great job for the most part. I think where he really kind of screwed up was just trying to make it a love story, which it absolutely is not.
Well, he admitted it later. He says,
"Yeah,
man, I painted us into a corner," because they said the ending didn't work because of that reason.
Yeah.
So I'm looking up in response to Slasher Fred. I've been wanting to do a new Carmilla movie for a long time. So I've got the original Carmilla novel, right? Carmilla appears in another horror movie that I wrote, which is actually based. I wrote a movie about Bram Stoker and Oscar Wilde facing Elizabeth Bathory, and so it's one of my favorite scripts. But referencing here Van Helsing and your comment, the Dracula, most people don't notice. Dracula has Bram Stoker has a dedication to somebody they don't know who it is. Dracula is dedicated to Arminius Vanbury. I'm like, who the hell is that, right? Who the hell is that? Arminius Vanbury was essentially the model for Van Helsing. He was this sort of a scholar scientist that Stoker knew, who also believed in the occult.
Wow.
Who got him looking into got him out of that Victorian mindset of enlightenment, of only whatever in the five senses and whatever human reason tells you is real. And Vanbury is the one that inspired him to really start looking into the occult as a real phenomenon. And so he dedicates Dracula to it, and he builds Van Helsing as a character based on his friend of his. And so in my script that I wrote, the Van Helsing character is actually Arminius Vanbury, who has to confront the vampire.
Nice. Yeah. Was he Dutch as well?
I don't recall. I mean, he was certainly Central European. I don't remember the actual national origin. I could probably Google it and find out. Yeah.
I absolutely love Van Helsing in the book, and I think Anthony Hopkins did his best to copy the inflections and charm. Although again, Francis Ford Coppola kind of had him being a bit of a goof. But in the book, he's so charming because his English is very bad and broken. So he gives a, "Oh, you very fine people, you wonderful woman." You know, like I can't do a Dutch accent, but he would repeat himself a lot and go so good people, But they really captured this very charming, like he almost comes across as befuddled to everybody. But when things get serious, he's the one that really takes charge and leads them through all of this and leads them back to faith and instructs them in things that are otherwise horrific, and he'll be very matter of fact. The scene in Coppola's Dracula where he says, "Well, what do you want the autopsy knives for?" He just says, "I want to cut off her head and stuff her mouth with garlic."
Right. He's so matter of fact. It freaks everybody out in the story because the way he talks.
Yeah. So to answer Ari Bobel, sadly the script has not been made yet. It is one of my best scripts. It's about Bram Stoker and Oscar Wilde, and after they encounter this vampire, each is inspired. Like you see how Bram Stoker is inspired to write Dracula, and then Oscar Wilde is inspired to write The Picture of Dorian Gray based on the events that happened to him, right? And so it's one of my best scripts. Of course, it's a little smart for Hollywood because they're like, who's Oscar Wilde? Or whatever, fine. But on our Minis Vampire, just did a quick Google. So he was Hungarian. And he traveled a lot to the Ottoman Empire. And he traveled all over. He went to Iran. He traveled all over the Middle East, and he brought back a lot of the legends of the Balkans that were used to flesh out Dracula.
By the way, there's another Dracula story by Bram Stoker. It's a short one. It's called Dracula's Guest. If you've never checked that out,
I know.
It's almost like a beta chapter of like the opening of the Dracula novel.
Yeah, it's very creepy.
See, and by the way, I want to point out that a lot of people don't know that Bram Stoker was born in Ireland, and he lived in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
He was a crazy Irishman, as one vampire story called him. Oh, you believe all that stuff written by that crazy Irishman? I can't remember what that.
Well, because the Irish have a long tradition of the Fae, and they have a mystical culture, and it's present to this day. You don't mess with the Fae today. You don't mess with fairies, or it's not a joke, right? But the other thing that people don't know, banshees. The other thing, and leprechauns, the whole thing. The other thing people don't know, which was one of the central elements of my script, was so Bram Stoker was actually a talent manager. He represented actors. He was like managed actors at the Lyceum Theater or whatever. And he was married to Florence, who was originally engaged to Oscar Wilde. And then she left him for unknown reasons, probably because she found out his true leanings, his true orientation, right? Which is still kept hidden societally. But Wilde and Stoker hated each other. They viscerally hated each other. And I use that entire dynamic in all those characters, like the actors he's managing in the Lyceum Theater and his wife, and the fact that Wilde hates him and is insecure because even though Oscar Wilde is more famous than this talent manager, Bram Stoker is going to go off to write Dracula, right? And he kind of senses there's some greatness in this guy that took the girl from him, right? It's one of my best scripts. God willing, it'll get made some days.
Now this is my favorite character in Dracula. Well, I would say a character that stands out for me is Renfield, which a lot of people speculate Bram Stoker actually based himself on Renfield. Again, this kind of intellectual who's been driven mad and also kind of being spiritually crushed by this entity, which is Dracula, which, again, people speculate may have been based on the manager of the Lyceum Theater who mentored Bram Stoker, but also kind of had him under his thumb. Are you familiar with those stories?
Well, I know I'm familiar with the actor that he managed. Is that the same character we were talking about the Lyceum?
Yes, the actor. Sorry,
he's like Tom Cruise of his day, and he's like a major. He's like the the Jonathan Harker character of my script. Like he's this actor that is like in over his head when vampires arrive.
I am absolutely in love with the novel Dracula. I've read it 5 or 6 times through the years, and the universal horror movie of Dracula, I think, is actually quite brilliant. It's obviously a lot different because it's based on the stage play, so they don't get to travel back to Transylvania in the third act.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I love is that you'll see Universal starting to do these things. Like, it's been some time since they did it, but they did the Philip Glass soundtrack over Dracula. Right. And you'll probably see them doing new editions again, because to my extreme excitement, the Universal Dracula, as well as the first Frankenstein, is going into the public domain in 2 years.
Okay.
So which one is
this Dracula?
Because it's hitting 100.
Yeah. I don't. Is it hitting 100? I guess it is. No.
Well, that's what they've done now, because it's like originally it was like just a handful of years, and then Disney is the one who's pushed up the.
They extended it. They extended, yeah. But okay, to answer the thing, yes, it's Henry Irving. Thank you. Henry Irving was the actor that I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, he's in my script. Yeah.
I believe he did at one point manage that theater too, didn't he?
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
And so they had this very complicated dynamic because Bram was his manager, and then then Bram went off to become this famous author. I mean, it's a very strange group of people that were involved in all of this, and so fodder for a great script. So,
outstanding. So this is you're
oh my God, the cereals,
childhood right here, and absolutely. So here you go. This is the new boxes. But I grew up on these. They came out when I was a little boy, and I'm 61. How old are you, Kamran? Do you want to say?
I'm 52.
So still, we're within that 10-year mark. So you know the same cereals I do. This one and Freakies were my favorite cereals. Fruit Brute was not what it was originally called, but I do like them. I loved what they did there. Was that Kellogg's? Who made that?
I think it was Kellogg's. I mean, it's
General Mills. There it is.
Yeah. But Con Chocolate and Frankenberry were my two favorites. And I also love Captain Crunch peanut butter. So those were my three.
I like Frankenberry. Now I did like Count Chocula, but I like the berry flavors. So I like Blueberry and Frankenberry, strawberry and blueberry, or whatever freak blueberry is.
I can't have them anymore because it's covered. There's marshmallows. Most marshmallows are made with lard. Why do you guys get to put lard in the marshmallows, man? Have some respect for the Jews and the Muslims. Come on, man. Come on. Why do you put the lard in the marshmallows?
Hey, we got RFK. You can take it to him. He'll fix it.
It's like as a kid, I love Twinkies until we found out they were made with lard. I'm like, whatever, man. They're not made with lard anymore. Come on. Yeah. Come on.
I never really liked them. My favorite was Ding Dongs. King Ding Dong. Fucking love Ding Dongs and Ho-Hos. And my friends would go, try the Twinkie. And I'm like, it's too sweet. I like the chocolate. I'm a chocolate guy.
As
but
time
anyway,
has gone by, I mean, my favorite character in the Dracula book used to just be Dracula. Now, actually, I think it's Quincy Morris, because he's just.
Well, he was the American, right?
Yeah, he's the American. He came from the Old West.
He's a cowboy.
In fact, he talks about a horse.
They always remove it.
He talks about the death of the horse in the book, which I always love, and he is the unsung hero of the story too, because without him, they wouldn't have won in the end. And they change it in the '92 film, but I still like what they did because, as I recall, Quincy still dies at the end of the book, but he's the one who delivers the killing blow to Dracula.
He and Jonathan Harker together
with the Bowie knife, right?
Yeah. Quincy,
big Bowie knife.
Quincy stabs him through the heart. Jonathan Harker slashes his throat. They do it simultaneously, but Quincy was already injured by the gypsies that were defending him. Now this scene here, this is kind of originally where Renfield is the predecessor to Harker.
They switch it up. Because Renfield is instead of Jonathan Harker being here, it's Renfield, which is weird because I prefer the version in '92 where Renfield was a precursor who failed in his mission, or you think he does, but in reality, he was actually sent off to prepare things for him to come.
Yeah, that was also not in the book.
Renfield is his John the Baptist.
Mm-hmm. Renfield in the novel is not it's not ever mentioned that he had anything to do with Dracula. It's more suggested that he has some, maybe when Dracula arrived, he created some sort of psychic link. But in my opinion, Renfield represents, because it's very much like Jonathan Harker and and Mina represent like the average British citizen, while Quincy Morris, Arthur Homewood, and Dr. Stewart represent different aspects of more cultured, high-class society in Britain. And Renfield kind of represents, again, the intellectual Enlightenment era taken to its nth degree, where it's driven him mad. And the idea of Dracula, he needs to be invited in, is a metaphor for what Bram Stoker felt at the time. Opening up England to the rest of the world was inviting in, these the holding the door open for these things that we don't know who they are. We, through society, have built, like I said, this Enlightenment culture that feels that it has figured everything out and civilization is the pinnacle and we are immune to everything, is now opening the door up to these old world things where we don't know what we're letting in. And we let in this evil that we don't know how to deal with. Van Helsing, fortunately, knows how to figure it out. But Renfield, being mad, being insane, is the person that Dracula goes to get to hold the door open for him. So there's this great metaphor here for, if you feel that through enlightenment, you have figured everything out and you don't acknowledge that evil exists, then you leave the door open for it and it will catch you most unaware. So there's a lot to Dracula going on below the surface that is very important. And as I've said before, most horror movies today, including H.P. Lovecraft and his stories, owes their structures to Dracula. This idea of going into this unknown land and coming across this ancient evil and bringing it back with you. Alien does that. Into the Mountains of Madness does that, or At the Mountains of Madness. I was crossing movie with book. But for me, Dracula is just an endless source of, it's the hub of what we know of supernatural, old world evil and horror in the movies and stories that are surround us today.
So here we go. They changed the name of the ship from
the Demeter,
Demeter to the.
By the way, there was recently the last voyage of the Demeter, which failed spectacularly.
Oh, they completely screwed that up. Yeah.
Well, I enjoyed it for what it was, but the marketing was terrible. Nobody knew what it was. All you had to do was market it as Dracula's ship. It was simple title. Simple, Dracula ship. People would watch that. Nobody knew the last voyage of the Demeter or whatever. They didn't know what it was. I thought it was perfectly fine.
They still screwed up the third act. I would disagree with you on the third act. It's complete failure.
Brother, after 23 years in Hollywood, anything getting made, I'm like, oh my God, it got made. I know what it's like to fail miserably with brilliant scripts, and some mediocre script gets made. I'm like, good for you, man. Something got made.
Remember, no one survived the Demeter. No,
that's the problem. They showed people survived, and I'm like, okay, you lost me.
Well, they were floating in the water. Nobody knows about them.
I love the lighting right there on his face, the way they lit his eyes in the film.
I love the Bugs Bunny parody of it.
I didn't remember that.
They took that for Morticia in the Addams Family movies as well. Whenever you see Morticia, she always has that Dracula light across the eyes. And they would they'd also do it for Captain Kirk in the Enterprise.
Constantly.
Oh yeah, they absolutely. I remember that with Kirk all the time. But this, I don't know. I just love the way they shot this. It seems to be stuck. There, I moved it ahead. It seemed to be stuck and kept going back to the same images, Martin. That was weird. But I do like Renfield in this, but it is not book accurate at all.
It's very hammy, but it's fun.
Oh, but that's Dwight Fry, man. He understood what was being asked of him, and he dove into it. And yeah,
Well, I also want to comment on, there's actually a lot of comedy in the 1931 Dracula, particularly the supporting cast of the servants and the dude working in the asylum. I mean,
the guy that works in the
mad.
asylum is Anima's favorite character in the movie. What's his name? May or something like that, Anima?
Martin,
that's it. Martin.
I mean, he's the straight man of the whole movie. He literally says, "You're all crazy. You're all crazy." So he's Bud Abbott surrounded by Costello.
He's
about Abbott and Costello
loony.
Dracula.
He's
All
an
the-
Eastender. So he's got that way of saying, "He's a loony."
That's it.
Yeah,
They're
it's like
all
he's
mad.
very non-PC. You're working in a state asylum. He's like, this guy's crazy. This guy's a loony. That's his attendant.
Everyone except you and me. And I have my doubts about you.
me doubts, and I have me
Oh, and
doubts.
he calls him Fly Eater. He calls him twice. He calls him Fly Eater in the film. Right, Fly Eater.
I actually want to make look, the movie is timeless. I think the performances are timeless. I think it sets up a lot of the tropes that we use to this day. A lot of them were just made up they're not even necessarily from the novel. They were made up on the spot there by Lugosi and things like that. So it's great stuff. But I mean, as a writer, look, there's flaws in the script. I mean, like Lucy shows up as a vampire and they just kind of forget about her. I was like, dude, you got to kill this vampire wandering around. They just forget about her. It's like this vampire that you showed like preying on children. You kind of just forget about her. It's like, dude, she's still out there.
That was one of the things that I really, that's always bothered me about that. They do throw in a little line to suggest that maybe that got taken care of off camera, but it's so subtle and non-committal.
Oh, Van Helsing says something, as I recall, doesn't he?
It's like a little thing. There's also, I'm trying to remember, there's a Dracula movie where they completely forget about Jonathan Harker. Like he never comes back. He's just never seen again.
He's just like
I think that's the 77 version with Frank Langella.
Was
that
the
movie
one?
screwed up? Everything that is so screwed up. That movie.
But that's like the sexiest of them. I mean, Langella's out there with his hairy 70s chest hair, being Dracula, right? This is pretty.
And they would do these extreme close-ups, and he's got that condition with the eye shaking, that disorder that causes the eye to move. And his close-ups were so unnerving to me as a kid. I'm like, what's wrong with his eyes? My dad's like, he's got that condition. He said the name of it. I can't remember the name of it. I always forget the name of it.
This is my favorite.
Few actors with that.
This is my favorite scene with Lugosi as Dracula, is him talking to them in the theater. I just love when he goes, "To be dead, to be truly dead, that must be something." Just like,
and he says that there are fates worse than death for some men, and that actually taps into something that people don't really realize that's in the Dracula novel, and I think Francis Ford Coppola goes there, which is that this is a curse. Dracula ain't happy to be trapped like this, right? He's trapped, and in this situation, and what's in the novel is every time, like first they stake Lucy, and then they stake the brides, and then they finally get to Dracula. The novel goes out of its way, including with Dracula's death, to say before he crumbles to dust, the face goes to peace. Like he finds peace. Like this murderous vampire is just longing for the peace of death, and all of them, their faces go to peace when they're killed. So that's something that's in the novel that really isn't explored, because most of the Hammer movies, there's just gory death, and it's really horrible. But they're like, no, they don't want. They are trapped in this horrific non-existence.
And that's what actually happens at the end of Dracula 92. And he goes into a peaceful mode.
Yeah.
By the way, we have forgotten. I haven't said hello to everybody that's been joining us in the chat. We got Daniel's Hot Topics, One Punch Man. Penny is here, a very good friend of this channel. Courtney's Shape Media, of course, said hi to you, Courtney. Awesome One, Stephen Ransom. Vinkman's Girl is here. Space Swaggle is here. Of course, Nadia is here. Oh, is that Horror with Nads? Nadia?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, my friend. She and I do a show on Thursday nights with Fanzine, where we just talked about the film Warlock, because it's another unsung 80s film that I think is far better.
Oh, wait. This is from the gentleman who did The Exorcist. Is that what we're talking about? Is that what we're talking about?
Oh, you're thinking of Sorcerer.
I'm thinking Sorcerer.
You're
I'm
thinking
sorry.
Sorcerer, yeah.
Because I
Yeah,
saw Sorcerer in a special screening a few years ago, and I was like, "This is an
I
incredible
love that
movie. I've
movie.
never heard of this movie."
I've seen the original film, and I prefer Sorcerer. I think it's a better film. Nadia is here. RJ Godzilla is here. Helen Place, and of course, our good buddy Soul Assassin is here. So, hope everybody's having a good Saturday. I know we are. We're talking about Dracula. What's this? Franklin Jello was Dracula on. Yes, he made it famous on Broadway.
Yeah.
There's a great interview with, I think it's the writer of the 92 Dracula, where he talked about seeing Langella in the theater. And he said when the curtain went up for the intermission, there were two like beehive wearing like older ladies in the seats in front of him. And one turned to the other and went, I would rather spend the rest of my life dead with Frank Langella than another night with my husband.
Wow. I mean, oh man, the dude was a 70s rock star. I mean, let's just say that he was a magnet. So
absolutely.
There's people on the stream that are not talking because people like me won't shut up. So I want others like to speak up here. Come on.
Well, we've got deleted scenes here. Who's always quiet? Deleted. Do you have anything to add here?
Well, this is a great film.
Oh, there he is.
And I always have that stuck in my head when they arrive on the Demeter and Renfield's down there in the hold, and just that maniacal fucking laugh he has, this guy's just way too into it.
I mean, I got to tell you something. Of all the versions of Renfield, the best version is Tom Waits.
He did a very good job. Yeah, he did a very good job capturing. They gave him a lot of the lines from the novel as well, and I think he executed them very well.
Yep.
So I want to comment on, because we see Renfield, the actor, just brings it, but Lugosi, there's some actual real moments of scares. Like I was watching the movie again last night, and I was like, there's moments where, like that moment when he's coming on Mina, and it's like he's just his face goes into the screen and his face twists. He's got no special effects, right? Except maybe some lighting, and his face is really scary as he's going in for the bite. He just twists into this monstrous visage, and it was just this guy had it, right? Lugosi had it, and there's a couple of moments of real, like the moment when he's about to attack Van Helsing in the parlor, right? He turns into almost like an animalistic thing. You talk about how his hands are so creepy, but the brilliance of that performance. I was watching it last night. I was like, Van Helsing just pulls out the cross very quickly, and instantly Lugosi recoils. It's like there's not even a moment of hesitation. It's perfection from an acting point of view. This guy was one of the masters of the craft.
Also, when Van Helsing summons him over, it's like something interesting. Take a look, and he's got the mirror in the box. And again, it's that
knocks it away.
That's Cameron. You in the novel again. There's moments of Dracula when he's trying to behave human for Jonathan Harker, but there are moments where his face twists into like a demonic rage, and is as quickly reels himself back in. But it's like Lugosi definitely tapped into that. Like I said, just the simple act of looking at a mirror and then like hitting it, that you'll see too much, Van Helsing. It's like,
I think he watched Cats. He reminds me of a cat with his reactions and the way he recoils.
The way he squints his eyes is very cat-like. He has very cat-like features in a way.
Doesn't he?
Oh God, can you guess who are cat people on the panel?
You have three of them.
What I also love is when he does his mind manipulating thing and it's just staring at people.
Yeah.
His stare is intense, man.
Yeah.
Well, I loved in Ed Wood, and I'm blocking on the name of the actor who played Lugosi, but he really Martin Landau,
yeah.
But he's
won an Oscar. He won the Oscar for that.
I love when he sees Vampira on the screen and he's doing this. And he goes
on the television,
and he tells Ed Wood, he's like, "If you want to make out with the girl, take her to see Dracula."
Didn't Lugosi actually? I don't know if it's an urban legend, but Lugosi was buried in the original Dracula costume.
No, he was. He was buried in his
boat. Although one of the things that Lugosi's family said, they were just like, they enjoyed the movie, but they said it's pure fiction. like, you know, yes, he did have a drug problem, but like right down to one of the things that they really harped on was
he was the first celebrity to check himself into rehab.
Yeah. But one of the things that one of the big things that bothered them so much is kind of funny. It's like in Ed Wood, he has these little dogs. In real life, he had 2 huge Doberman pincers. I can never say that right, not pinchers. But yeah, he had very large dogs. So they're like, we don't know why they gave him those little puffy yappy dogs. That wasn't him at all.
So Gary, if you look, I sent you Facebook. I actually sent you something that I downloaded, which is the original letter of acceptance that Bela Lugosi sent to Karl Laemmle, right? That I'm going to play the role.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So I've got.
I got to share this. Okay, let me share this.
So it's his original, and you know, it's a great moment of history. In 1930, he wrote this letter back saying, "Sure, I'll do this movie role that's going to change his life."
I have to get going, gentlemen, but I want to bring in one last thing about Lugosi that kind of fits in when he accepted Dracula and Dracula became such a huge hit. He got invited back to Hungary as like, we'll give you the hero's welcome. You know, you're you know, we love you. You've done so much, but he was so afraid because he had defected. He was afraid it was a trick from the Communist Party that once he got there, they would arrest him. So he never went back. Wow. Anyway, having said that, yes, enjoy the rest of your talk, gentlemen. I love Dracula so much, so I had to come in and chime in. Have a great afternoon and enjoy the rest of your stream.
I'll see you later, Chris. Take care. Thanks for dropping in, buddy.
Thanks. Nice insights. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, gentlemen. Take care. Love you guys.
Gentlemen, and lovely lady. One lovely lady.
Yeah, it's not a complete sausage party, Cameron.
Yeah, it usually is with you, but what can we do?
Yeah, I know, but I fell in love, and so
yeah, so that's good. That's good for all of us. All right, so so this is the letter you got on the screen here from 1931 or 1930. It's actually, and if you want to read it, I actually love the postscript is almost longer than the letter he wrote, which is like a true actor postscript. So if you want to read it,
it says, "Dear Mr.
Friedman."
Oh, man, it's so small on my screen.
I mean, you know what? I'll read it because I've got the.
Would you read it? Yes, please.
I've got the real JPEG here that's bigger on my screen. So this is to Harold Friedman, who is the vice president, general manager of Brandt and Brandt Dramatic Department. So I guess this was the agency that was sent to give him the offer, right? And this is being sent from, I guess this is a hotel. It's on hotel stationery for the Leamington, which is in Oakland, California, which is where he received this. And he sent it on July. This is Bela Lugosi sends it on July 12th, 1930. It's, dear Mr. Friedman, I have your letter of June 26th in reply to my wire, and wish to thank you very much for your kind effort in suggesting that I play the part in Dracula when it is filmed. I'm sure the success of this enterprise will be largely due to your endeavors, which I very much appreciate. Hoping we have future business interests together. And again, thank you. I remain yours very truly, Bela Lugosi. Right, so very, very elegant. He's a classy gentleman, right? He wrote it himself. He wasn't a wealthy actor at the time, and so he had done some stage stuff, right, which is how he got noticed. But so he actually references his place. His place is actually here in LA. It's this tiny little apartment that you can find on Zillow that still looks like it was in the days when he was there. So the PS is great. It's NB. If you have plays in which there are great character parts suitable to my kind of ability, I would appreciate it if you would send me copies to my printer address, 1146 North Hudson Avenue, Hollywood, California. So there he is. He's just got offered the role that's going to change his life. He's like, if you got some other stuff for me, just keep me in mind, right? Which is a desperate actor trying to getting work. Like, if you got other scripts, I need work. So please send it to me. And that's such a human letter.
Yep.
This guy's about to have his history changed. And he's still looking for work to keep himself going.
And I do want to point out that not only was he the first Dracula, he was also the first cinematic Jesus.
Really?
And,
is that true? I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know. Yeah.
Was it in silent or on talkies?
It was silent. It was silent. And I thought that was interesting about him. But anyway, so we've now got Van Helsing deeply involved in this story because Dr. Seward, of course, has that association with him. And it's something they kept from the book into the film. It was through Dr. Seward that you meet Van Helsing. And Van Helsing, what's great about this guy's a Midwesterner, the actor that plays him. He's from the Midwest. Actually does a really good accent. And I always liked that about his character. This is a guy who took the time to learn the dialect. And this is where science versus belief clashes right here. Well, vampire is something from myth, you know, whereas Van Helsing still hold on to these things. I don't know if that movie even exists now. I got to be honest. I've never seen it. I just happen to know it because it's something that was a book I read many years ago.
Yeah, so many silent films are gone. It's a tragedy to humanity.
Well, a lot of people don't know there was that great fire, and they had silver nitrate in the film, which over time becomes extremely, extremely explosive. And they had a massive fire, and thousands upon thousands of films were lost to time. You'll never see.
Yeah. That's
including London at Midnight with Lon Chaney. All we have are the stills and a few moments of footage. That's it. I love his Coke bottle glasses, those really thick lenses that he wears for this character. Today, actors are given lenses to put in their eyes to counteract the glasses if they, if it blinds them. Whereas actors like this, they just had to learn their marks. By feel.
But couldn't they just give him Coke bottle glasses with like fake lenses? I don't know. I guess.
No, they gave him like real lenses. You can actually see how thick the lenses are.
Yeah, and so you probably see how the eyes look bigger or whatever, I guess. Yeah.
And I've heard stories of actors before the use of contact lenses that would just bumble through their scenes, and they absolutely had to be right on the mark. Otherwise, they would just like knock shit over or ruin a scene. In the scene, Van Helsing mentions Nosferatu, which is just another word that's used, which is said. Another word meaning vampire. Yeah.
But what's interesting again, it's a reference to the producers had watched Nosferatu. I mean, they had seen it, right? And there's actual some sequences they took directly out of Nosferatu. They just they stole them, right? Because what is he gonna do? The movie's alleged they thought the movie had been destroyed by then, right? So they didn't get away with it. But the word Nosferatu, I'm understanding it's a Hungarian word, and it's Strigoi in Romanian. And what's interesting is the opening sequence when they're in the Borgo Pass, where they're coming there, all the characters are speaking Hungarian. They're not speaking Romanian. But Romania, I think, was part of the Kingdom of Hungary, at least at the turn of the 20th century, before World War I. Absolutely,
yeah. By the way, I want to point out, there is Anima's favorite character right there, Martin.
He's great. He's so great.
That's Salami. Yeah, he's great.
He's
funny.
He's funny, and I love his East End London accent.
Yeah,
it's great.
Well, that's the whole point. Is that this is like he's a normal dude because there's all these snobby, classist, opera going, tails wearing douchebags in this movie, and he's like the normal dude. Like seeing this count from 500 years ago, and all these like snobby British aristocrats, and this guy's you're all crazy. He's speaking for the working class.
Slightly annoyed that he has to take care of Renfield, and he just keeps escaping.
And he keeps escaping, and he's like getting irritated with him. Like, I don't know how to watch this guy any better than watching him.
He did it again.
That's self-aware writing. I like it.
Yeah, take him away, Martin. I think we even had a joke watching this. Oh, his name is Martin. We'll never hear the end of this with Martin. By the way, welcome to the show, National Trails. We got National Trails in the chat.
Oh, hello.
Currently, we are being viewed by the end of tonight. Just on the first day, we'll have over 200 viewers for today's show. That's great. Yeah, we're doing better. We're not like Midnight's Edge or some of the other. Like Pauly is like, God, he's been killing it. I love Pauly.
Well, all the channels that are going to have long-term success, like Pauly, right, are the ones that maintain their integrity. And you've always maintained your integrity. You've never tried to chase the algorithm, and you've never tried to create drama for the sake of views, right? And so that's why
YouTube hates us.
Well, they hate us because of my mouth. And Have you noticed? I don't think I've cussed today, have I? I managed to
I know I have.
avoid dropping an F-bomb earlier. It's so hard for me because I've got a military mouth, but I'm getting better, Cameron. I'm getting better.
So since you guys are doing these classic things, somebody's mentioning the Abbott and Costellos. I would love.
We are doing it. We are doing it.
Because all right, so the one I want to do is Abbott and Costello meets the Mummy, right? Because I saw that as a kid with my dad, and my dad was a very, very serious guy, but he cried with tears watching that. It's one of my favorite personal memories of my family. My dad was bowled over, crying with tears, laughing in that movie. So I want to see it again.
We are going to be doing all the Universal monster films with Abbott and Costello because I consider them part of the Universal Monsters films.
They were.
In fact, when Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein is really the second film to pit Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman against each other, and I love that. Are you going
to do the Creature of the Black Lagoon?
Yes, it'll be the last one we do.
All right. Well, I have to be on for that just because I love her so much. She's like my biggest crush. Yes.
Yeah. So Vinkman's girl. Everyone enjoys Gary's mouth. I don't know how to take that, Vinkman's girl. Like, what do you mean?
What? I mean, we don't cause drama. By the way, I hate you, Gary.
I hate you too, buddy, with all my heart.
But on the Creature of Black Lagoon, I saw a screening of it a couple of years ago with Julie Adams' son came because God bless her, she's passed away. She's the star of the movie. She's just mesmerized.
She's gorgeous.
I mean,
Howard Hughes was after her so bad.
Probably, he's probably one of the ones that turned him down, which made him go crazy. But
she did.
So Adam's son says one of the hardest things in life was being her son. Is that people would come up to us like, dude, I wanted to bang your mom. Your mom, I have the hots for your mom. I mean, to this day, they're like, dude, your mom was so hot. I fantasized about her. I mean, it's like, just leave me alone. And like, people won't stop saying these things to me.
That's messed up, man. By the way, I love this look on her. This is Mina's haunted expression where she is just looking off, not connected at all. And I thought this young lady did a good job in this scene. Yeah. And she has that classic 30s voice for a woman, like Glinda Goodwitch kind of thing. Yeah. She had that voice, but she nailed this part. She really did a good job.
This is much better than the one in the new Nosferatu movie.
And I'm going to say something else. And this is love towards Abbott and Costello. If not for the work that Abbott and Costello did, Universal probably would have given up on the monsters and we would have never seen Creature from the Black Lagoon. But they brought life back into Universal Monsters, the Abbott and Costello films. Yeah. And I've always loved that. And more perverted shit coming out. Gary's mouth, oh, they look tasty. Goblin Middle Earth. And what's this other one? I saw another one up here. It was nasty. Got a pretty mouth. Who said that? Yeah, here it is.
On that note, I got to step away for a few minutes. I'll be back. I'm just going to step away. You guys continue talking.
Okay. So we've got this. This is one of my favorite scenes in the film because it does such a great. This is a transitional scene. And you need these in films. You've got to have that thing that moves you from Act 1 to Act 2, from Act 2 to Act 3. And this is the beginning of that transition where he knows. He's the only one that seems to know what's going on here. And he's not telling everybody.
And he's great
cautious.
with her. The way he treats her is just so.
Yeah, he's asking her questions. And the lips touched you where? And she's like, on my neck. He goes, may I look? He's a doctor. He's acting like an actual doctor.
And you don't see the bite mark. He's looking at it. We don't get to see it.
He sees it. Yeah, we're not allowed to see it because I did not know that the Hays Code existed at this point.
I didn't know about that thing to begin with.
And by the way, again, it is not available right now except for, I think, on the Blu-ray of Dracula from Universal. I think you can see the Spanish Dracula on there. I think it's on there.
I think it got
once again, another reason to own physical media. Greg, Tom, all of us keep pushing this. Physical media is the way to go because you are going to get screwed buying digital. Because once again, you don't own that film. You think you do. You pay to own it. But it's only available through that platform. You can't cross-platform.
You buy it, but you don't own it. It's so wrong.
Yeah.
And you don't get any of the bonus features. And it's so worth it. Stop doing digital, man. Digital is a good backup to have a digital copy of a film.
There
Here
is
it is,
another case for it,
confrontation.
though, Gary. I have
What's that?
absolutely no room, so I couldn't have physical if I wanted to, like for everything I own.
Well, not everybody's dirt poor like you and me. They have bigger places. You
Yeah,
need to get a
people
bigger
send
place.
me money.
Send me money.
Chesky needs a bigger house. It's got physical media.
And of course, here she is a victim of his, and he's facing her, talking to her like nothing's happened. She doesn't seem to recognize him either, other than from the night at the play or the opera. What is this? What's this?
No,
You
there's something
guys
happening
ever
on her
seen
face when he comes in.
the murder mystery? I think I've seen that one, Dave. And one of our OTA TV stations used to broadcast AACMF after school during Halloween. Oh, I love that. And of course, you know, I'm friends with Richard Dizell, who of course is one of the few still remaining old school horror movie hosts as Count Gore Duval. And I got to get him back on this show again. I want
He
to get him
played
on
the
this
lady in
live.
white, right?
No. That's a director. I'm talking about horror movie host. He was one of those Saturday
She
night
keeps
horror
it up,
hosts.
people.
During Monday through Friday, he was Captain 20. He had Vulcan ears, Vulcan like hair. He wore a spacesuit, you know. And then on Saturday nights, he wore the cape and had his hair slicked back, and he was Count Gore Duval and hosted horror movies every Saturday night. And having that man in my life is one of the greatest pleasures of my life, knowing that I got to know one of the guys that inspired me to do some of the things I've done. Digital is losing faith with the gamers. Many are losing their purchases. It's getting crazy out there. Well, you rely on the fact that that service that you bought it through is going to stay on. That's why I only bought through Google and Microsoft, and I actually download my copies. So if they ever do go away, I still have my copies, and I can alter the coding on them to where I can watch them again. But they don't like that I can do that. It's because I'm friends with people who know how to hack. Watching this on a projector screen was way better than any TV. Absolutely. By the way, that was the mirror right there when he smacked the mirror away. You know too much, Van Helsing. I love the way he says words. And by the way, a huge nod to Bela Lugosi in the 1992 film when he is talking to Jonathan Harker, played by, I love Keanu Reeves, but that is one of the worst films of Keanu Reeves. He is so terrible as Jonathan Harker. But that scene when he says the line about wine, that's not in the book. That was Bela Lugosi that first did that. It's from the play, it's from the film. And so they added it into the 1992 film, which is I Never Drink play.
Yeah, that's
You're a
so
wise
great before
man,
he says
Van
wine is so great.
And what's really neat is Gary Oldman's accent is closer to Romanian than Bela's. And it's really weird. He had a great voice coach that taught him the accent and worked with him for every line. He had to learn how to say them a certain way. And he nailed it. Jonathan Harker in this is more of a hapless character. There's almost no point to him other than being engaged to Mina. And that's one of the big letdowns with this is that they had to change the script so you don't get the real Jonathan Harker in this film.
He's not even a character, really. He's just there. There's nothing.
Oh,
to
it's
him.
not an ad lib, Bateman's Girl. That was planned that he would say that line. And I love that they put that in there. It's Coppola and Gary Oldman and the screenwriter that worked together. They agreed that it needs to be in there. And by the way, just to point it out, in the making of that film, Coppola realized that he had painted himself in the corner with the ending of the film because it doesn't work. It fell flat. They did the movie. the way it was written. And he says it doesn't work. And then so he sat down and watched the film with Coppola. And at the end of it, he goes, "Oh, we screwed up." Or he says, "No, you screwed up. You made people like Dracula. He is now the romantic hero of your film." So he worked with Coppola to rewrite that ending to where Jonathan Harker and I just forgot the cowboy's name. Dang it. I love that character.
Quincy Morris.
Quincy Morris. Thank you. Quincy and Jonathan Harker are the ones who actually kill him, but they changed it to have her deliver the death blow with the kukri knife into his heart. Or was it the Bowie knife?
Decapitate him at the end.
No, the Bowie.
Yeah,
knife
she
is in his
decapitates
heart.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, she does both. Because
And I don't think she uses the Bowie knife on the cutting his head off. I think that's a
no,
kukri.
the head is with the kukri. Yes, but the wait, no, it's all with the Bowie knife.
Really? I got to go
Yeah.
back and watch that again. Damn it. Because I could have sworn I remember her using the kukri on that, because that's what a lot of the other guys were carrying, kukris, specifically the foreign fighters that they went up against to get there. So what do we got here? What's this? The film Fright Night. Oh my God, I love Fright Night. Really, it's one of my favorite vampire films of all time. And Stephen and Billy Cole is a version of Dracula. Yeah, I wouldn't argue that. In the movie The Nightmare Before Christmas, the vampires of Halloween Town talk in a very Lugosi way. Yeah. And that's, look, Tim Burton is just a huge fan of these movies. And Vincent Price is his favorite actor of all time from the old days.
Yeah. Just rewatch. She stabs him through the middle of the chest, then pulls it out, and then decapitates him with it.
Okay, see, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to leave it impaled. But you're supposed to do that chest, put an iron spike through the chest to keep them grounded. That's supposed to ground the vampire. And then you decapitate them, and then you put garlic in the mouth. Stuff the garlic in. Somebody said sew it in. I'm like, no, that's zombies.
I mean, there's a whole thing about like put holy wavers on the eyes as well.
Oh yeah, that's how you destroy the earth. And they show that, they kind of allude to it in this, but they actually show it in the 92 film of putting the huge communion wafers in. And I'm like, were they that big in the 1800s? God damn, man. Like this is how big they are today when you go to Catholic church, little tiny wafers.
No wonder the peasantry went to church. It's like, give me my bread, motherfucker.
I told you about when Father Weems got mad at me because I went up for communion 2 times in one mass. And he goes, "Why'd you do that?" And I said, "I was feeling packaged." He's like, "Well, it's good food, but I'm very unhappy with you." So
I just want more
so
Jesus. That's all.
I got that face. I got that face when I told him I did that.
I mean, if I'm going to engage in cannibalism, might as well go all the way in the body of Christ here.
Body of Christ, blood of Christ, body of Christ. I love
I
Peter
always found that
Griffin's joke about that. He goes, "Huh, that's the blood of Christ. Man, he must have drank a lot."
Oh, one parody I want to do where it's the Last Supper and he goes, "This is my body." And everyone goes, "What the?" And they start throwing up everything else. "This is my blood."
Oh.
Everyone spits the drinks out. What the hell is wrong with you, Jesus?
That, as a Catholic, I've always loved that part of the Mass when they talk about it. It says, he does what Jesus says at the Last Supper. He says, "Drink this in memory of me." And then he says, "Eat of this, for this is my flesh, the flesh of the new and everlasting covenant, which will be given up for all men, so that sins may be forgiven. Do this in memory of me." It's one of my favorite parts of the Catholic Mass. Did you know that the original release from the movie, which can be seen in the documentary Road to Dracula, there was an opening introduction in which Van Helsing comes on stage? Oh, the actor. Actually, is that this I don't
No,
think
it's
that's Dracula.
no, no,
I think that's
on
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
Yeah, it's Frankenstein, buddy. And he is in that movie, by the way. They have a lot of actors that you see. Dwight Frye is in it too. Dwight Frye plays the part of Fritz, which is commonly referred to as Igor or Igor, as Marty Feldman would say.
Another one of my favorite communion jokes is the kid looks at it when the priest says this is the body of Christ. He wonders, wait, that's the body of Christ. How'd they make him last so long?
Oh my God, shut up. That's terrible. Queen Peachy Keen D is here. Okay, I will drop the... Was that for something else? I didn't catch that. Oh, I will drop the wafer. Is that what you meant, wafer? I'm just curious. Iron to the ground. Iron to ground him. That's right. So copper doesn't work as a grounding rod. Not in Dracula.
Vampires
But I've
are
never
electric.
considered vampires as a conduit for electricity.
You have to ground them, and then you have to handle them with rubber gloves.
See, right here, this is where she brings up Lucy. If you can save Lucy, please do. And this is it. This is the moment where it's alluded to what he will do for her by saving her soul. What he's actually saying is, I'm going to put a stake through her heart and cut her head off and fill her mouth with garlic so she can never be taken over by the evil spirit of Dracula. I watched a movie, forget the title, but a couple found... Oh, by the way, I'll finish reading this here. Hold on. Found a grave and removed the cross, buddy, and suddenly vampires all over. Yeah, how it happens. But somebody brought up Once Bitten is a great vampire spoof film with George Hamilton, and I love that movie. My favorite in that is he drinks the blood of somebody that's an alcoholic hobo or something, and he gets drunk.
Yeah, I remember that movie. I remember. It was
great.
It was fun.
I thought George Hamilton was great in that one and Zorro the Gay Blade. Two great George Hamilton comedies.
Oh, well, Hamilton's great because he's kind of self-aware. He's kind of making fun of himself, right? So the whole time.
Absolutely. He doesn't take himself seriously at all. And I think he's still alive, and that guy's like 1 billion years old.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's still doing well with the ladies. He always did well with the ladies.
I don't know if he can move around much because, man, that guy must be tanned leather by now.
I keep my mouth shut so he won't get censored. All right, okay.
Can't Dracula, I'm curious. By the way, hi, Parrot Head. Good to see you, my friend.
Did I miss something? Did someone here say they were descended from Vlad Tepes? Did I miss this?
I didn't see that. Who said
No.
that? Martin, help me out here.
No.
Do your fucking job. Tell me what's going on here.
No.
Do your job.
Well, I know he has descendants. I saw like some, horror documentary where some great granddaughter of his that's around, like, so yeah, they tried to like put her in contact with doing a seance with her ancestor or whatever. But yes, I mean, he has descendants.
I would say that Parrothead must be quoting movies.
I love this. Put him in a straitjacket and give him an enema. Wait, give him an enema first, then put him in a straitjacket.
Isn't that sort of The Mummy? Isn't that what happened to The Mummy? Right? It's kind of what happened to The Mummy, right?
Yeah, because the later films, and my favorite versions of The Mummy, I got to be honest, I love the first Mummy, and The Mummy's Hand is pretty good. But my favorite version is the one with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing.
Okay.
That came out in, was it 57? And I think that is the best retelling of that story, which is also loosely based on Bram Stoker's story of The Mummy, as I recall.
So you're not including the Brendan Fraser, because that's a good movie. The Brendan Fraser.
Well, those are Indiana Jones for me. They're not The Mummy for me, okay. But I do like them a lot. I even enjoyed the last one they did together, with the son, being involved with it. He's an adult now, and I was like, this is fun. Jet Li's in it. But the first one is my favorite one with him. But to me, people go, don't you like The Mummy? I'm like, I wish they called it something else, because it's not The Mummy to me. It's not connected the same way. A little bit over the top, a little bit too, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Campy?
No, it's not the campy part of it that bugs me. It's
the
just
last
the
cult
big,
movie, as far as
the
I can
big
tell.
scope aspect of it, the epic feel of it.
So he's like
And
causing
Mummy-
sandstorms and all that stuff, right? Eclipsing the
it's
sun.
the Mummy is a more intimate storytelling, again, about obsession and love.
Sure.
You know, because he was obsessed with this princess, and really some of the same themes. Because again, he's found a modern girl that reminds him of the woman he died for, or died because of his obsession. So I am a fan of the Boris Karloff film. I just think it's great as the Mummy. And by the way, they in real life, unlike what they show in Ed Wood, Bela Lugosi and Boris were actually very friendly with one another, very liked each other a lot.
Mhm.
There's none of that. You're great as Boris Karloff's sidekick. Sidekick? Fuck you! What's that? What's the next line? He says that limey
cocksucker's not fit to smell my shit.
What a great line!
But it's a good line for a movie. It doesn't have to be historical. Whatever.
Yeah, it's not historically accurate, but I laughed my ass off when he said that. I'm like, I can't believe Tim Burton made that movie. It was so good. But once again, you know, Dwight Fry, and you'll notice that a lot of the blocking in this is reminiscent of stage plays, and that's because this is pretty much a straight across adaptation of the stage play. Oh, this is when he goes, the doctor's Pat's a loony. I love when he says loony. There's a Scooby-Doo movie called Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School, in which Scooby, Shaggy become the teachers for the offspring of the classic monsters. There's also a TV show called Monster Squad that had the guy Gopher from what's that show?
The Love Boat?
The ship out there.
Yeah,
Love Boat, thank you. It was his first show, and he was the main character, Saturday morning show, and he managed a team of monsters, which was Dracula, Wolfman, the Mummy, and Frankenstein. Right. And then years later, Fred Decker and the guy that wrote Lethal Weapon, I just forgot his name. The two of them wrote the movie The Monster Squad, which was about the monsters attacking their town in order to bring about the apocalypse. And these kids, and it was inspired because Fred Decker himself was a fan of the Little Rascals and a fan of the Universal Monsters. So he came up with a way, and he loved the Abbott and Costello films, to bring them all together, like an Abbott and Costello film. And Anima just watched that film, and she enjoyed the shit out of it, Cameron. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, Monster Squad from 1986.
No, I don't think I've ever seen that. That sounds like fun.
You should check it out, because they were being supervised, because Universal was the first company to reject the film. But they wanted to keep the monsters in there, so Universal spied on them constantly to make sure they weren't stepping over any lines that would, step on their trademark control over those creatures. So they had to change them a certain percentage. And the worst one was really the Wolfman. He just
I hated the werewolf. He looked nothing like a wolf.
Yeah, he looked weird.
He had a face like a mouse.
Yeah, he had a little pointy nose. But what they did right, I love the way they did Mummy. I love the way they did Dracula, because he had the classic look without looking like Bela Lugosi. But the Frankenstein monster was absolutely brilliant. Of course, they couldn't have it on the neck. That's a trademark. So they put the bolts on his forehead, on his temples. And,
did he have bolts? I think he just put the electrodes there to wake him up. I don't think he had bolts.
Yeah, well, he connected. There are bolts there, tiny little bolts sticking out. And he connected to those bolts that are up there. The Monster Squad is very much a horror version of the Goonies. Absolutely, it is. And I won't argue that. And I love both films. And the ironic part is Fred Decker had never seen the Goonies when he wrote that movie. He said his ideas came straight from Little Rascals meet the Universal Monsters. And that's all he did in his mind.
That's such an archetypal idea. I mean, it's a good idea.
Yeah, there you go. Hoybish is here too. Man, we got some people dropping in, my friend. Hoybish, I've never met you before. Welcome to the channel. Hope you subscribe. And Tanzach is here. That's a new one. And of course, Queen Peachy Keen D. I don't recognize that name at all, but welcome, welcome, welcome. and my good buddy, Real Popcorn Geek. We interact a lot on X, just a lot. I love that guy. National Trails is here too. So we got a really good audience going right now. Really good. Great chat. And I do say this, that we share a lot of the audience, our chat, with some of the other channels. And I always say our community has the best audience, the most interactive with us. I love the way they interact with us. That's why I do the show, by the way. It's not
And
just my love for film, Cameron.
And there's
I
a
love
remarkable lack of jerks in the chat. You know, that's a very nice thing.
You'll notice that too. We don't get a lot of trolls in here, and I kind of like that. These are real cinema lovers. These are cinephiles that come to our channel because they know what we're all about. Only once a week, Keith does his show on Thursday mornings, and that is a news discussion show. I lost interest in it when Mikey died. When Mike Sutton died, my interest also it was connected because Mikey died right after, and then in December when James Gunn got hired with Peter Safran, I said, I'm done. I'm done talking about movie news. I'm done. I don't give a shit. I do know it. I keep up to it because I still talk to Andre and Tom and all those guys, Paulie. We talk about this news. But in reality, this is what I want to do, Cameron. I like talking about movies and my love for film because I've seen upwards over 10,000 movies in my lifetime. And I would love it if I was able to talk about every single one I love before I die. That to me is a more positive way of going about things.
And the great thing is that and the library keeps increasing, so it's always tough to talk about.
Yep. And the only troll we get in here is one that we love, which is Monkey Jeebus. He's the only troll we get, but he loves our channel, and I miss him when he's not around. He's having to work some jobs right now to make money. Real Popcorn Geek says, "Hey Gary, I hate to be a downer, but I saw on Twitter that Zivius has passed away. I didn't know this."
Who is that?
Okay.
Oh no.
You don't know who he is. You don't know.
No,
Don't worry about it. I'm going to check it out, Real Popcorn. I'll find out, and I'll tag you. I'll let you know. Unless you find out and then tag me. We also lost another friend to this channel. Martin, you want to say who it is?
Yeah, Kevin Mayer Howard.
Movie actor, TV actor, friend of ours.
Movie, TV actor, and producer. He has his own production company.
Very supportive of law enforcement. I love him because he played Rafterman in Full Metal Jacket, one of my favorite characters in the film, and from the book. And we got very chummy with him. He's been on our show 3 times, and I was just recently considering having him back to do a discussion about Full Metal Jacket again because he has some great stories from behind the scenes. And then, like yesterday, man, found out he passed away. And it's just really sad. He's a sweetheart of a guy, really is. Great interview. Yes, it's true. Our trolls are classy, Cameron.
Well, I mean, I mentioned Oscar Wilde earlier in today's discussion. Oscar Wilde was the ultimate classy troll, right?
He really was. He trolled society so much. God, man. He was one of the wittiest fucking people I've ever read.
Well, see, on my script, that my horror vampire script I wrote, I was using it as a gimmick, and then it took over the script. Like every line of dialogue for Wilde, I went through. I had like a book of like thousands of Oscar Wilde quotations and one-liners and quips, right? And I would just pull out his one-liners and quips in response to the vampire, and he just started taking over the script. It's like literally like he has a one-liner for everything. So any precarious situation that they're in this movie, he has a one-liner that's perfect.
Yeah, that's always good. If you can get somebody to do that in a story, they have great quips. It's like you've got something going. So I hope you get that produced. I want to see that. Sin's Corner is coming over from our good friend Deleted Scenes channel. Hello. Taking a break from work to enjoy some coffee and listen in on this for a while. Welcome to the show. Hope you subscribe to our channel too, because occasionally Deleted Scenes on here when he shows up. We've come to the point where I just told the leader, don't even say anything. Just tell us when you're gonna show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's making the classical comment in our group that he's not going to be able to make it.
Yeah, he'll do that, Cameron. It's really funny. He goes,
So
not going to be here this weekend. I went, oh, shock. Oh, surprise.
What's new?
What?
Well, it's my
tell us when you're
schedule's to
gonna
the
be.
point that it just keeps changing sometimes on the fly, and I agree to be on shows, and then I have to back out of it last minute, and I hate
You're
having
part
to
of
do
this
that.
family, whether you like it or not. And
I
so,
know.
oh, there she is. Look at her. Look at those hungry eyes. She's considering
Oh yeah.
eating her fiance right now. Like, you look delicious right now.
I think remember this is 1931, so it was kind of sexy, right? I mean, they're pushing the boundaries,
Oh,
of this stuff with her. He wasn't, but there's all this, and this actors brought it, all the repressed Victorian stuff is coming out.
Yeah.
And by the way, the reason why they used the name Dracula is because they actually paid for the rights to use the name Dracula.
Yeah, from the family. Yeah.
His widow absolutely was. He had a hard on for movies, and the reason why everything went down with Nosferatu the way it did, because it's not like they did the film without permission. In fact, it shows at the beginning of the film that it's based on Bram Stoker's Dracula at the beginning of the silent film.
Mm-hmm.
And she was fully aware of it and had no problem with it until she didn't get paid what she wanted.
That's business.
And
Yep,
that's business. And that's when she did what she did. After the movie,
she's the lead of my horror script. She's spunky in the horror script too.
Yeah, she absolutely was just, you guys didn't give me what I wanted, and I'm fucking going to make your life miserable. And the saddest part of this is if they had succeeded at what she got a decision, that movie would have been another film we never saw.
Well, it was. They did succeed. It was destroyed. It just one copy was found that should have been destroyed.
We now know.
We
now know that there was 4 of them now.
Wonderful.
It's like around other places. New York was the one that we all thought was the one copy that survived.
Yeah.
But I got corrected on that and was told, no, there were 3 more. And I went, so 4 copies were found eventually. So
that's a gift.
That's why you have variations.
Well, I mean, I think Nosferatu, frankly, is a better movie. I mean, it's a scarier movie.
It is.
It's. I mean,
There's a straightforward monster in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cinematography is revolutionary. You've never seen anything like that before. People have been mimicking it since then. I mean, like 1931 Dracula, people did mimic, but Nosferatu is a whole quantum leap, another level. And that's why, I enjoyed this most recent remake, but it doesn't even come close to what they did in 1921. It doesn't even come close to it, right? Because that you can watch snippets of that. I mean, you can watch all of Nosferatu on YouTube, right? But if you watch just snippets of it, it's absolutely terrifying. I mean, it's heart-wrenchingly terrifying, and there's no sound, there's no dialogue.
I got to see
one of the things I like is the use of shadow in it, because this was in the day of German expressionism, and it was, in my opinion, that one and the Closet of Dr. Caligari are 2 of the freakiest films because they're done with expressionism.
Well, that's both. Those are both Murnau films, right? F.W. Murnau.
Yeah, both of them are Murnau. And,
so Szymanski, you were saying? I'm sorry, we interrupted you. We interrupted someone before they were able to speak up.
I was talking about that. I saw Nosferatu. I actually got to see Nosferatu in a theater setting. It's the original, mind you.
Wow,
it's great too. Of course, everyone always has their own OST for it. So it was the New Beverly Cinema. The right guy who did this like ambient dark synth mix for the movie. It was great.
Yeah, so it's good. So I actually watched yesterday. There's a tradition here at the Aero Theater here in Santa Monica that every Valentine's Day they show Casablanca in the theater, and so I went there, and just watching these films on a big screen. It's just Casablanca. You watch this thing, you're like, my God, this movie is so incredible.
For me, Alien was like that, like actually having the sound design in a theater setting. You don't quite get that on the home video viewing.
Sure.
Oh, that's fantastic, Sin. Thanks a lot. We appreciate all the new people. And when you guys do sub to this channel, I always ask, make sure you're still sub, because if you Like we lost, you wouldn't believe this, dude. In 4 days, back in, I think it was November or December, was it, Adam? I can't remember. We lost in 4 days almost 1,000 people.
I think it was December, but yeah.
And it was
we lost
YouTube.
900
YouTube did something. And, but I got to tell you, our viewership has increased and people are coming back, resubbing. So I appreciate it when you guys do.
Yeah.
It's what's that?
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. It's YouTube is what it is. I mean, I'm off of X at this point permanently because banned for no unknown reason and not returning for no unknown reason. So I just forget.
I believe that it was because of the sexy girl thing, which I love. I love your posts when you put photos. They were nice photos. They weren't pornographic.
They were not that
beautiful.
No, X has no problem with pornography. That has none. It's one of the biggest purveyors.
Oh yeah, I've seen.
But no. The issue was I spoke up against various people at Lucasfilm, and they had friends at X, and they just called somebody and they pulled the plug, and then that's what it came down to.
Yeah, apparently you're back in phantom form.
There's like various accounts you send me, Shanowski. There's like various people pretending to be me, but thankfully nobody's following them. So.
Yeah, that's the film I brought up earlier, Godzilla. London After Midnight was damaged in that big fire. And all we got left from that was some stills. And there is random footage from it that's been found, but that film was destroyed in that big fire. It just breaks the heart. Because as I've read, one of the best performances by Lon Chaney. And I do Military Monday because as a veteran, I like to talk about films. We are going to do his Marine film, Lon Chaney's, because I've heard that it's a really good film. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm looking forward to it because I really am a fan of Lon Chaney's work. He didn't just do horror films. He played a lot of different characters. He's so versatile. If you guys have ever seen Mark of the Vampire, RJ, the movie was basically a sound remake of London After Midnight. And that was done in the 30s, and that's with Bela Lugosi in it, as I recall. Let's see. I discovered I subbed some accounts on Twitter that I never actually subbed to. How does that happen? So weird. That'll teach you to like things. I don't know. So this is a great scene. I love this set. This is the supposed to be the underside of Carfax Abbey, where they're hiding. And they found the caskets. And
did you notice it? The caskets still have their the shipping labels on them.
Labels are still
because he mentions, I hope I brought enough shipping labels, and they still have these stickers on them.
Yeah, it's great, and it's a great set. And like I said, I when I get a chance to, Kamran, I want to do the Dracula, the Spanish Dracula, one day, and do a slideshow like this. And talk about that film because I've been told it's so different. It's the same, yet it's so different. Their interpretation.
Yes. They're a lot closer.
And the review is that it is the better of the two.
No, it is not.
I'm telling you, that's what I've been reading.
I read that too. So I went and watched it, and no, it's not a bad movie by any account. But this is better.
All right, Parrothead's doing this great troll here. I saw a werewolf with a Chinese menu in his hand walking through the streets of Soho. You know what song that is. That is one of my... I'm a big Warren Zevon fan. And I love Werewolves of London. What a great song.
Such a weird song.
That one,
too.
and the Headless Thompson Gunner is another favorite.
So hold on a second, Werewolf. So I had a meeting last year with a couple of good producers, successful producers, like one of my scripts, and they were mentioning they're thinking about horror stuff, and I said, werewolves are gonna be big in the next year, and they're like, nah, nobody cares about werewolves. And then right after, I was like, no, trust me, I intuit where it says, because horror reflects where culture is. Vampires reflect a certain moment of culture, zombies reflect a certain moment of culture, and werewolves.
Cinema is cyclical.
Yeah, and it reflects cultural trends. So werewolves represents a feeling of people, when people feel that the world is viscerally scary, animalistically, right? That they can't control their environment, right? That's where werewolves start appearing. And zombies are when people feel bored and trapped. That's what zombies represent. Vampires represent repressed sexuality. That's that. And so, but werewolves represent, untamed nature, right? It represents the id, I think. This is my own personal thesis. I don't know if I've read anything about it. It was my thesis, right? And so I said, no, that's what's going to come. And within 48 hours of that meeting, a bunch of werewolf projects were announced. Like Michael Bay was doing one, and then the Wolfman one came out recently. I don't think anybody really watched, but now just
it's so bad. But here's what I got to say.
Yeah.
My review of the film. I watched it. It is the most beautifully shot, terrible movie I've ever seen.
No. Most beautiful, terrible movie. Most beautiful, yes, beautiful, terrible movie would be the movie that with the Star Wars that I don't want to say its name.
Well, yeah, but yeah, that one is as George Lucas carefully said, that's beautifully made movie.
Yes,
that's all you can say about it, right? But look, there's a lot of others. Like I love the director of Babylon, but Babylon is a beautifully made bad movie, right? There's a lot of them. There's a lot of beautifully shot bad movies out there.
Yeah, when I saw the trailer,
anything from Terrence Malick is a beautifully made bad movie.
Tarsum.
Yeah, it's like look, my boss worked on because you know who Dale Dye is. That's who I work for.
Yeah,
and Dale Dye was a senior military advisor for that movie.
The Vietnam movie that he
the World War II one where they hit Guadalcanal. I forget the name of it now.
Thin Red Line.
The Thin Red Line. The Thin Red Line.
Which is beautifully shot piece of garbage. I mean, it's a beautifully shot piece of garbage.
It's absolutely a piece of shit. But the best part of that movie is the combat, which is what he was in charge of doing, training these soldiers and getting them to do the scenes correctly to make it look like real combat. And so Anima and I watched it, and I just decided to fast forward or skip scenes entirely. And she was like, "Well, the combat part was great, but the rest of it is just awful because it's so boring." And I got kicked off of a group because they said that the one character is the main character. I went, no, he's not. The sergeant and the main soldier are the main characters of the book and film.
Well, I would double that and say, I don't know who any of the characters were. I watched that movie. It's like, who's this guy? Wait, this guy just died? Did we ever see this guy before? I mean, I don't know. I can't tell you who the characters are today.
Yeah. Terrence Malick is just a terrible filmmaker.
The part that I never understood was that people keep saying that there are the people out there who keep saying that Adrian Brody's character was supposed to be the lead guy in that.
That's
movie.
the one, and I got kicked out of that
group.
He's
barely in it.
Yeah, I mean, like, and it was like, who are these people? I mean, like, it's beautiful combat, but I didn't get to know any of these people. So when they get themselves blown up, I don't care.
I got banned from several Discord servers for saying I don't think if the female doctor is going to work. It has nothing to do with her sex. It has to do with why they're doing it. And goodbye.
Whatever. It's all. Yeah. People ain't ready. You're not ready for the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've always made fun of that story anyway because the guy who wrote the book, he was there for one battle. He was there for Pearl Harbor. He was there. He would go in after everything happened, like at Guadalcanal. The Marines were the ones who cleaned that fucking island up. The Army did do some stuff. They got in some skirmishes there, but it was the fucking Marine Corps that did most of the combat on that island, Guadalcanal. And so it's like basically all of his books are books about I was almost there. When this first book,
he's basically a lucky bastard trying to. He's like not in actually being shot at. Good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I just put the link out there for you guys. If you want to go to the Wikipedia page for the Spanish Dracula, you can look it up. It's not available right now anywhere. Amazon has it listed, but it's not available. Couple other places.
I'll find that link. It's in my list of links here. I'll find it. I'll send it to you or DM it where the guy's doing the commentary on both movies simultaneously.
I would love to see that. Yes, I love commentary.
I got it. I got that with the commentary.
Oh, you found it? Okay, great.
Hoivish, I'm glad you brought that up. I did say that earlier that he not only was the first Dracula on screen, He was also the first cinematic Jesus. And oh, you're very welcome, Sin. You're very welcome. This is just so you guys know, this channel is primarily a cinephile channel. This is about showing love for great films. I hit a point where I got tired of talking about the current state of the situation in Hollywood and the entertainment industry. And I just said, I want to talk about good stuff and stop talking about all the negative stuff. Because I get sick of being negative. And so
that's why you don't have 10 million subscribers. That's why.
Yeah. Because I don't want to talk shit about people. I won't. I refuse to. I've had beefs with people. You will never know it. I don't talk about them publicly. I won't go. I've had. There's this one because you know who Jace is, right, Cameron?
Which Jace? Which Jace are you talking about?
Jace Falcon. He's from
Jason Fox.
Yeah,
I don't really know.
Well, he invited me on his channel one time, and his partner on the show is a fucking idiot.
Now we're talking crap about people. I thought you didn't do that.
Well, what it is, he was an idiot. I will say this because I tried to have a civil conversation with him, and he kept telling me that the prequel trilogy, as well as the final film being that of Revenge of the Sith, was as good as Empire Strikes Back. And I stopped, and I was like, "Oh, I thought he was making a joke." And I went, "Oh wait, are you serious?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "It's better than Empire Strikes Back." I said, "Do you really believe that?" And he says, "Yes." I said, "Then you're a fucking moron." And it went downhill from there.
Anyway, I like the prequels. I wouldn't compare them to the originals. Any of them. I enjoyed them. After seeing the garbage of the sequels, after seeing these fake sequels, I actually would rather watch episode 1 on a 24-hour loop and than watching that garbage.
Absolutely agree. Because I actually still enjoy the prequels. I do enjoy them. I just think that he screwed up by not hiring a real writer to come in and fix up his dialogue. And I hate his dialogue. George Lucas cannot write dialogue worth of crap.
But stuff like that, because of how bad things have gone, it is like that fire that has helped encourage me to get script writing done. And Gary, you can attest, I got a good amount done, and I'm doing some more right now as well.
Yeah, which means because I've been meaning to talk to you, I really need your help to finish this script because I can't. I'm having trouble because I go on about my neuropathy, and I suffer from severe neuropathy from nerve damage, not just the diabetes. I do have nerve damage from diabetes, but it's far less than what my spine has done. My spine is messed up, and it's from doing artwork my whole life. I've been drawing for 46 years, and 40 of that professionally, and it's like it fucked my spine up, and so I have no feeling in these fingers. They're like balloons, but then I will get pain. It's like you give me numbness, but you can let me feel pain. Way to go. And so it screws me up, and being able to write sometimes is hard for me. I've been trying to find a really good program for speaking so I can actually write that way, but I haven't found one that does it right. They all have like real weird shit, Cameron, out there. I really need a professional level one. Hey, Clue Studio, hi.
Can you use
how about
the
you
note
get me
taking
over
function
there
on
and
your
I'll
phone?
type for you?
Oh.
Huh?
Yeah, because we're going through the process of getting her to come here, she'll be able to probably transcribe for me. And but writing and drawing becomes laborious now, painful, and it pisses me off because it's what I do, it's what I love, and I'm hoping that I figure a way around it. But anyway, I do need to get with you, Shinatsky, because I need you to help me finish that script. So we're working on a script that I think you would like. It's called The Darker, and I wrote the original script in 1987 when I was in my 20s, and I still love it, but I'm a better writer now, and so I turned it into something really good. Tom Conkle wants to turn it into a film, but I got to finish the script, and it's a pain in the ass. The other one I know that you would like is my script, Jung, J-U-N-G, Jung, based on Carl Jung.
Oh well, and I mean that already intrigued me right there.
I treat him as the father of parapsychology, which he is, and I talk about that period of time when he broke from Freud and went into the Congo. He went into deepest, darkest Asia, Near East and Far East, and Russia. He went all over the globe. And I have elements. It's a horror. It's meant to be a horror series, but I wrote one script that gives you little tidbits of each moment in one little short script. It's an 18-minute proof of concept script.
Right.
And I've had multiple writers read it and go, holy shit, screenwriters go, this is really good. I went, thank you. I think it's about writing about what you love, like you with Marilyn Monroe. You know, I'm so excited about that script with you.
Have you ever read it? Have you read it?
You haven't sent it to me.
I'll email it to you. Maybe you can even do a special episode talking about Marilyn and, you know,
well, we can actually do a Marilyn Monroe film, and you can join me, and we can talk about the script, what you're doing.
I have an idea which movie we can talk about.
Which one?
Something Like It Hot.
Something Like It Hot is great.
I love that one. I fucking love that one. I watched it with my
And that was
dad
one of
when
her
I was, like,
roughest
15.
films because she was having a lot of trouble during.
Yeah, she was pregnant. She ended up miscarrying afterwards. She was also nearing the end of her life. I mean, you know, everything was collapsing on her at that point. You know, one Something Like It Hot would be great. One that I think might be specifically relevant to the story I wrote, because the script I wrote is about the period of her life before she was a movie star, when she was happily married to Jimmy Dougherty, who was a sailor, right, and just living in Catalina.
Her first husband,
normal person,
You
right?
sent that to Gary. He's going to forward it to me, so I get to read it too.
Yeah, you get to read it. And but what's interesting, the reason the movie that I would suggest, we definitely do any of them. We can you know, Something Like It Hot is great. One I might suggest is Bus Stop. The Bus Stop is the one that was really her Oscar level performance. She didn't get an Oscar because, you know, the industry doesn't give people Oscars because they deserve it. And but her co-star got an Oscar nomination from that. I don't know if he won, he might have. But in any event, in that movie has the same themes. It's like it's near the end of her life, and the movie is about her playing a showgirl who's trying to go to Hollywood, and this like normal dude falls in love with her and is obsessed with her and persists and woos her, right? You know, and it's actually the movie of what if she had made the other choice and stayed with her normal husband and been a normal person like everybody else, right? And that's what my movie kind of explores, is the choice she made in leaving normality to become Marilyn Monroe. And, you know, she achieved beyond what even she believed was possible. And then she died a pretty sad death. And her husband Jimmy was just devastated. He was embraced by her.
Right?
He predicted it. He knew it. I mean, he told her when she was doing it, because they were happily married, and Hollywood said when she got her first movie contract, you have to leave him, because they wanted her on the casting couch. And this big muscular, he was a boxer, this big muscular sailor who was about to join the police force. This is the time when it's LA Confidential, where the LA police are scarier than the mob. And it's like, if they tried to casting couch her while she was the wife of a policeman in LAPD, the police his buddies would have shown up at the producer's house, put a gun to that guy's head, right? And so they needed him out of the picture. And not only did they do that, they erased him. And then they gave her a script where she told everybody in the press, I never loved him, I never cared about him. It just destroyed him and broke his heart, because he was the only good person in her entire life. You know, the only person who never hurt her or abused her, and she left him. And, you know, I think Bus Stop is almost like this part of her is like, what if I had not done that? Because I believe in the final years of her life, she regretted leaving Jimmy. And that's not the official narrative history. The official narrative history, she never loved the guy. It was a marriage of convenience. She left him. She never looked back. I do not believe that, based on all the research I did. I believe I believe she was like, what did I do? I put myself into this crazy situation, and I need Jimmy, and Jimmy's not here anymore. I believe that. But I'll send you the script. We can do a special episode.
Yeah, please send it. I love reading your writing, and that's really one of the reasons I wanted you on here, is because I talk to people. I'm not interested in doing Hollywood updates and stuff, even though I do sub to you on
Patreon. The Patreon, so you hear what's going on.
Yeah. And but to me, you know, I just kind of like, look, what's going to happen here is politics are going to bleed down into the industry. You're going to have those who are bucking and bronking, but they're going to fall in line eventually and start making good films again. And I'm hoping that that's what happens.
Well, I want to say that I've seen just a couple of really good films, and they're horror movies in the last few days. So this, I'm going to put it on Patreon as well. But just a couple of days ago, I saw this Hard Eyes, movie, and I love
that. Looks good.
It's really good. It's brilliant. It's 50% slasher horror film, 50% crazy romantic comedy, and it really is 50-50. It is laugh out loud funny, because they take all the tropes of both genres and they make it work. It's basically about a couple in a romantic comedy type of situation where they hate each other, but they like each other, and they're thrown together, and then suddenly they're being hunted by a serial killer that hunts people down on Valentine's Day. And so they go through all of the crazy tropes of the romantic comedy
And to
while
survive.
being hated.
That's great. I love that.
It's utterly,
Yeah,
and I also liked Companion. If you haven't seen Companion, I really enjoyed Companion.
Yeah, Companion's really
Actually,
good too.
I saw the trailer for that, and that's another film that got me under the skin. I trust trailers, and I tell people, if like Babylon, I watched that trailer, I said this is going to be garbage. And
sadly, you were right.
Yep. But then I saw the trailer for that one with the robot, the android, the sex robot, and I was watching that, and I'm sitting there going, some people are not going to like this, but this looks like it's going to be.
No, everyone's going to like it because it actually isn't what you expect it to be, right? It's really smart. It's up there with Ex Machina intelligence and looking at the nature of AI, but it just happens to be about a sex bot that becomes a self-aware, and the movie doesn't go the way you think it's going to go, and it's really the performance. It's worth watching. It's a great movie. I mean, it's really good.
Subverting expectations is one I poke fun at when you hear people that use that, subverting expectation. I simply go, it's called irony. Stop calling it that.
Yeah, but I mean,
irony is how you do it.
There's subverting and there's surprise. Subverting has a negative connotation, right? There's surprise, as in
Ryan Johnson.
Yeah, Companion is filled with surprises. Like, I'm pleasantly surprised by the way the story turned.
Quick question then. How much did they actually spoil it? Because it looked like they spoiled a lot of the film in the trailer I saw.
Of Companion? I haven't watched the actor interviews. I will say that, it just doesn't go the way you think it's going to go. And
it sounds like the ending wasn't spoiled. Good.
The trailer doesn't spoil everything. No.
Not at all. It sets up a basic thing, but it really, you're like, that's what's happening. Oh, and you do that a lot in the movie. Like, oh, well, wait a minute.
Now the question I have: some of these good films, are they pickup films and shot independently? Because that's where I've said.
Yeah, both of these two are small indie films. Companion is a 4-person cast. It's
Hollywood.
They're really cheap films.
Hollywood's changing.
Well. Yeah,
Hollywood is changing, and what I said, and I said this with Keith. I said independent's going to be the way that film gets produced, and what these studios are going to do is they'll give pickup or completion funds and pickup, and you're going to see studios take a back seat to production. Am I correct in my assumption of that, or am I guessing of that?
That's what I'm trying to do. So if you're correct,
I see that's happening.
That's going to become a larger segment because like movies like Companion and Hard Eyes, they're just going to make money, right? And again, they're not. I mean, both of them are twists on the horror movie. They're both twists on it. They're unusual, smart, new things that I hadn't ever thought about. Which you think the genre. You think you've seen everything in a slasher movie. Well, you hadn't, right? You think you've seen everything with sort of like the AI movie with Megan or whatever. No, Companion doesn't go that way. You're like, oh, wait a minute. And so this is a chance for people like Shinatsky who think differently, who think outside the box. Because I've read a lot of Shinatsky's scripts. He's really ahead of the curve in a lot of his thinking. And this is the time. But you just have to make them cheap. Like Companion is 4 people in a house, right? And that's what it is. And maybe a couple of side characters, like a cop shows up here and there, right? But that's it. And Hard Eyes is just a standard slasher movie. No unknown actors being chased by masked crazy person, right? I mean, that's gonna be made for like $1 million.
What was that movie last year, Shinatsky? Because Chris Gore was trying to get me to watch it. I still haven't seen it yet. I saw part of it. Where this guy just walks around through nature killing these campers or some shit.
In a violent nature.
In a violent nature, yeah.
Yeah, and I watched about half of the movie, and I'm like, I like it. I can't help but like it, but it's not like a strong story or anything. It's a very simple story, but great visuals. And it's gory as fuck. So I need to finish it. I never got a chance to finish it, but it is one of the films I wanted to finish. But I got my own feel that that's the direction that the studio system is going to be about pickup for distribution as well as completion funds. I think that Hollywood will eventually step away. The major studios will step away from production eventually because, look, they bragged about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that came out a year and a half ago, that it made the same weekend for opening, it beat the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that came out in 1990. And I'm like, okay, it's 13 million opening weekend. Gotcha. Okay, that's 1990 13 million, first of all.
Mhm.
And you're not taking into consideration inflation, devaluation of the dollar. So that's a lot more than 13 million that it brought into today. Two, with the number of seats that were sold, the 1990 film beat the modern one that they put out a year and a half ago by over 2.5 million seats sold. And that's why the studios now do not let you know how many tickets they sold. Box office is solely based off dollar. And that's because they've increased the price of tickets in order to compensate for less people wanting to see movies.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy because they keep upping the price, less people keep going, they increase the tickets, and eventually it's just going to hit critical mass.
So for guys like us that know this shit, when you start bragging about your box office, fuck you, Monkey G. There he is. I told you, that's our troll.
The box office is always, just trade propaganda, but also, look, I think you're in the right direction. I think it may take a bit longer than maybe 10 years to move in that direction, but part of it is also a lot of the old franchises are dying because they've blown their wad. The MCUs. Sadly, Kennedy destroyed Star Wars, and Favreau will do the best he can. It'll continue on in some way, hobbled, but it will continue on. But now, Deadpool was doing well, but with all this drama around Ryan Reynolds, I think he's canceled himself for the general public, right? So I don't think they're gonna be Deadpool.
He has hurt his career, and I'm telling you right now, he should have kept his mouth shut and supported his wife, but kept his mouth shut.
But the problem is, they're all these dudes at that level. They're in a bubble beyond we can't even grasp, right? They're just surrounded by yes men, and especially when you're bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Like he is, right? I mean, it's just they're just surrounded by yes men who will tell them that their gases do not smell, and there's nothing new. I mean, my Marilyn movie is about that. I mean, poor girl was surrounded by yes men who were like, yeah, baby, you want to take those take those pills. Yeah, I mean, they're literally like, did you not? Jimmy was the only one who said, baby, this isn't good for you. One person alive is like, honey, don't do that. And no one else ever said no to her. And it led to her death. So
and I saw, because I saw people attacking you over this. And I'm like, I think that your depiction of Marilyn, Norma Jean, is probably the most accurate depiction so far, and I like that. So
my movie.
I want to read the script.
I've just emailed it to you, and you can share it with Animal, please. But I just emailed you on
real quick because I think we're gonna have to finish that.
We have to get going. We have to go.
My whole thing with horror series, and I think the mistake they've always made is they keep bringing back the monster. The monster, when you know what it is, can never be as scary ever again. What they should do, keep the hero from the first movie, have them fight a new monster they know nothing about. Then you can keep doing that surprise and shock.
So basically, Final Girl series, like the Final Girl keeps finding herself.
Yeah,
it's Penelope Carroll.
Final Girl, have her fight something else instead of Freddy keep coming back.
It's basically that line from Die Hard 2. Why? How could this happen to the same guy twice? Right? How does this happen to the same girl every time a new monster? But yeah,
the first time that was done is Universal Monsters, because Frankenstein monster died at the end of that one film. What was it? Ghost of Frankenstein? Was it Ghost of Frankenstein? He dies in the fire. So anyway.
And they bring.
We gotta go. I'm sorry, buddy. We gotta end this. So I'm
I just want to respond to that.
Owe a video.
On Lived a Life a Candle Wind. The point of my script is that Marilyn Monroe did live her life like candle in the wind, except for the 4 years where she was married to Jim Dougherty, which is erased, where she was protected and had a glass over the candle. She threw that away to put herself into the wind. Right. That's the story that they don't want to tell, because she walked away from safety, stability, love, and happiness for fame. And that's a story that Hollywood is scared of.
Yep, I agree with you. And by the way, Monkey Jeebus, here's your video.
I'll take the front 9, you take the back 9, and we'll meet back at the clubhouse.
There you go. Anytime they breach the back door, because that's one of the things Paulie started calling me Backdoor Gary. And so I gotta fucking play a video. So we're out of here, guys. I appreciate everybody being here. I want to thank, let's get to Ben Zinger, Charlotte Nightstar, the werewolf, Connie Cleary. I love that name, by the way. Connie Cleary, Slasher Fred. Slasher Fred has a great name too. Slasher Fred. Come on. Ari Bavel, Daniel's Hot Topics, One Punch Man Tolkien Fan, Penny, Country Shape Media, Awesome One, Stephen Ransom, the Peter Vinkman fan site, also known as Vinkman's Girl, Space Flaggle, Nadia, RG Godzilla 81, Helen Plays, Soul Assassin, National Trails, Real Popcorn Geek, Queen Peachy Keen, and Tanzash, Parrot Head, Information Man Show. Boy, a lot of people showed up. Hoy Bosch, Sin's Corner, FKC 2005, also known as Tim. Give him his video, quick. Martin.
On it.
Thank you, man.
Here you go.
By what name are you known?
There are some who call me Tim.
We got Clue Studio, Max Damon, or Damon, and like Max Damon.
Max Damon.
We got Monkey Jeebus. We have, that's it.
All right. So as we're wrapping up, what's the next one of these Universal movies you're going to be reviewing?
Well, I've got Frankenstein scheduled, and I've got you added for that one.
When's that going to be? I'll put it on my calendar.
That will be in not next week, but the following week. We'll do Frankenstein.
Okay.
So
if we can keep it around 2 p.m. Pacific, I can generally make that work.
Everyone we have with you will start the show at 4 o'clock Central Time, 2 o'clock Pacific. Or as my stepdaughter would say, that's 4 o'clock specific.
Yeah, that's 11 p.m. my time.
Where are you, Anima? Where are you based?
I'm in Austria, so it's 1:30 right now.
Okay.
He's a Vina. She's a Vina.
I briefed last year. I was doing a flyover and I had like 6 hours in Vienna where I just left the airport and I had some of the best food I've ever had in my life. That was really good.
We have good
food. Vienna food is so good. So anyway, we're ending it here. Let me end with this.
Hey, this isn't over yet! We're not giving up on Darren! Yeah! Coming on, yeah!
There you go, baby. That's the way to do it. We are out of here, guys. God bless all of you. Look forward to seeing you guys again. Don't forget, Monday, we're going to be doing another film. We're doing the TV series, the Finnish TV series, Conflicti. And I enjoyed that show, by the way. Very well done show. Despite its politics are obvious, I didn't care. I enjoyed the military aspects of it. So everybody have a great Saturday. Be safe and God bless. Thanks for being here, Kamran.
Thank you. Honored to be here. Thank you.
Welcome